What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another amazing Naruto story. What if Naruto wields a sentient weapon? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Hey Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi looked up from his book to see Naruto running towards him. Kakashi was currently at the hospital to see Sasuke, who had gotten here after he had the curse mark put on his neck by Orochimaru. He had it sealed and was put here so that he could heal. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto said, can you train me for my fight against Neji? I've been trying to think of ways to do it myself and I'm coming up blank. No, was the answer. What, why not? Naruto asked. He was starting to get really annoyed with his so-called sensei. He always took Sasuke off after training to teach him special jutsu. Kakashi looked around and then leaned down to Naruto. I can't tell you here, he said, making Naruto raise an eyebrow. Meet me in the Hokage's office in 20 minutes, I'll explain there. Naruto was slightly confused but decided to just listen to his sensei. He had a feeling this was going to get very interesting. 20 minutes later, Naruto arrived in the Hokage's office wondering what it was Kakashi wanted to tell him. He was shocked to see that Kakashi was already there. You're actually here, Naruto said, surprised. He ran to the window and looked up to the sky as if searching for something. The Hokage and Kakashi looked at Naruto like he was nuts when Naruto turned around. Okay, he said, relieved, it's not the end of the world. The two sweat dropped and looked at Naruto as he turned serious. Okay, then why won't you train me, Kakashi? Naruto asked, really wanting some answers. Because, Kakashi said, I'm not strong enough to be your teacher, Naruto. What? Naruto was wondering if he had actually heard that right. You're not strong enough? Naruto, Kakashi explained, if you were anything like your mother and father you are going to need a really strong person to train you. Unfortunately that person is too busy at the hot springs, researching for a book. Naruto's sweat dropped at that. He had a feeling that he would like this person. For that reason, the Hokage said, we are going to give you your birthrights. My birthrights? Naruto asked, hoping that this wasn't some messed up fantasy. The Hokage smirked at Naruto and reached into his desk. He pulled out 5 scrolls. One was red, another was green, another was white with kanji for light on it, another was black and kanji on it, another was silver with beast and kanji. Naruto, the Hokage said, your mother gave me these scrolls for safekeeping before she died. My mother? Naruto asked, wanting to know more. Yes, the old man said, you see your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, was not from Konoha. She was from the Whirlpool village in Water County. The Uzumaki clan founded the village and lived there for many years. She came to Konoha under the wishes of her father who wanted an alliance with us. Here she met your father. The two fell in love and after a while they married in secret. In secret? Naruto asked, why? Your father, the old fire shadow explained, had a great deal of enemies in and outside the village. He married your mother in secret to protect her and you from those enemies. Who is my father? Naruto asked. I can't tell you, the Hokage answered, making Naruto pout. However, I will tell you if you win the tournament and gain the rank of Chunin. Okay, old man, Naruto said, puffing out his chest, I won't let you down. Now I have to ask, what's with the scrolls? These, the fire shadow explained, are scrolls containing fighting styles from your village. What are they? Naruto asked, his curiosity really starting to get the best of him now. The red one holds the red leg fighting style, the Hokage explained. This particular fighting style uses only the legs to fight. The Uzumaki were known for their skills in a forge and thus made this fighting style to protect their hands from harm. The green scroll contains the Santoryu sword style. This particular style uses techniques that use fewer or more swords. In certain cases with no swords. Why would I need a sword style like that? Naruto asked. The Hokage smiled as he gestured to the lost 3 scrolls. These 3 scrolls, he said, each contain a set of swords. The white and black scroll hold the swords of light and dark. Both sets were forged by a pair of rival brothers. The one who forged the swords of dark defected from the village. The one who forged the swords of light worked for the village and brought his brother to justice. Cool, Naruto said, interest in the 2 sets, but what about this last one? This set, Saruto said, has a bit of a legend around them. It is said that the founder of your clan actually managed to gain favor from the 9 Biju. It is said that he carried these blades and upon gaining their favor they gave a bit of their chakra into the swords. thus creating the swords of the tailed beasts. Naruto was floored. Not only had his clan made their own fighting styles and weapons, but they gained the favor of the 9 Biju? This was really starting to get interesting. He felt Kakashi tap on his shoulder and he turned to see his sensei holding a scroll. "Naruto," he said, "these are some strong jutsu that I learned over the years. I want you to take these and learn them." Naruto smiled widely as he took the scroll. His face fell. "Hey old man," Naruto said, "how am I supposed to learn these before the exam in 2 months? I don't have that kind of time." "Naruto," the old man explained, "the shadow clones you use are able to relay info to you up being dispersed. Just don't do too many at once, it could give you a major headache." "Thanks old man," Naruto said. He reached out to the scrolls but Sarutobi stopped him. "Naruto," the man said, "I will only give you these on 2 conditions. 1. You drop your mask and show everyone the real you. And 2. You get rid of that orange monstrosity and get some real ninja wear." Naruto nodded his head. Then he took the scrolls and put them in his bag. He was about to race out when he remembered something. "Hey old man," Naruto called back, "why don't you try to use shadow clones to do the paperwork for you?" The Hokage was about to answer when realization dawned on him. Naruto left and so did Kakashi, since had to go train Sasuke. Just because he was, though, it didn't mean that he would enjoy it. As soon as those two left, Sarutobi took out a paper that his students had given him. He unfolded it to reveal the words, "Hit head here," written on it. He then placed said paper on his desk and started banging his head against it, saying, "Stupid. Stupid. Stupid." Meanwhile, Naruto was walking down the road to find a ninja store. He ignored the glares he got from everyone and found a shop that had a sign in front of it that consisted of 2 swords crossed in an X pattern. Naruto walked in and saw the last person he expected to see. "Ten." Said girl turned around and saw Naruto. "Hi Naruto," she said, "what's up?" "Well," Naruto said, "I came here for some business." "Really?" Ten asked, getting interested. "What is it?" "Simple," Naruto said, "I want to get rid of this." She looked at what Naruto was wearing and couldn't agree fast enough. She net threw some stuff in the bag and brought out some clothes for Naruto to try on. He walked into the bag and decided to try them on. After a few minutes, Naruto walked out. Instead of the orange jumpsuit, he had long baggy black jeans and a pair of black combat boots. He had on a black t-shirt that fit him and showed off some muscle that was hidden by the orange jacket he used to wear. On top of that, he had a blue sleeveless trench coat with the kanji for rage on the back. Ten took in Naruto's new appearance and blushed slightly. Naruto was examining his new look when he noticed something on the wall. It was a black violin with red and gold trimmings. It also had many kanji symbols written on the side. "What's that?" Naruto asked, walking towards it. "That?" she asked. "It was supposed to be a musical weapon? If you play it while pushing chakra into the symbols, it's able to cast powerful ninjutsu or genjutsu. Unfortunately, no one has been able to play it. If you do, some screeching noise plays instead of music." Naruto reached out for it and took the bow. He placed the bow on the strings. Before Ten could warn him, he dragged the bow across the strings. Instead of a screeching noise like Ten expected, a lovely tune played. It was so beautiful she found herself lost in it. When it stopped, she pouted to herself. Naruto smirked. He found a scroll beneath it that had the kanji for music on it and took it too. "How much will this cost?" he asked. He didn't really have much money. "Well, since we've had that thing a long time and you're the only one who's been able to play it, I guess it's free. That'll be 600 ryo, she said, fighting down her blush. "Thanks Ten-chan," Naruto said as he paid and left. "He called me Ten-chan," she thought with a happy grin on her face. She was really starting to like the new Naruto. Later, Naruto sat in his apartment with the 3 sword scrolls around him. He sighed as he undid them all. The scroll of light had the pictures of a dove, a lion, a wolf, a butterfly, a dragon, a leopard, and a phoenix. The scroll of darkness had the pictures of a fox, a large dog, a white fox, a bear, a hawk, a boar, and another fox, only this one was red. The third scroll had the pictures of all 9 Biju. A 1-tailed raccoon dog thing, a 2-tailed cat thing, a 3-tailed turtle, a 4-tailed monkey, a 5-tailed dolphin horse thing, a 6-tailed slug, a 7-tailed horned beetle, an 8-tailed giant ox, and finally a 9-tailed fox. Naruto had a feeling that this was probably not going to be easy. He focused into each scroll and then there was a sudden burst of chakra. In the wake of the burst he was hit with each burst and he lost consciousness. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto woke up in a sewer. Naruto looked around and saw a huge door with the words, "Get in here, stupid," written on the door in neat handwriting. Naruto groaned at being called that but walked in nonetheless. He nearly lost it at what he saw. He saw all of the animals from the scrolls he had seen. He even saw the Biju, only they weren't in cages, except for Kyuubi, and they were spacing out. "What's going on?" Naruto asked. "Kit," the nine-tailed fox said from in his cage, "the Biju outside the cage are the mental representations of the swords you have. They are currently deciding whether or not you are worthy of wielding them." Naruto was quiet for a minute, then the beasts all snapped out of the dazes that they were in. They all turned to Naruto. The beasts then talked to each other. After they finished, the dove, the red fox, and Kyuubi looked at him. "Child," the dove said, "me and the other beast of the swords of light have come to a conclusion. We have decided to let you wield us. You have shown great courage and a pure heart. For that we allow you to use us." "Boy," the small fox said, "the swords of darkness have talked and we shall let you wield us. We know that you are willing to kill and that you have incredible strength that will not falter under normal circumstances. For this you will be allowed to wield us." Naruto smirked happily at that. Then he turned to the representations of the demons who still looked a little dazed. When they snapped out of it they looked angry. Naruto knew to back up. As soon as he did, the two-tailed it roared. "Impudence," she roared. "I can't believe how narrow-minded these pathetic humans are." "I agree, sister." The ox snarled. "I think it's time they learned the difference between a monster and its container." Kyuubi chuckled to himself. He had a good feeling about this. They all turned to him and they whispered to him, trying to keep their voices hushed. Naruto was surprised that they could do that since they were like 5 stories high. "Kit," the fox growled, "we have seen your past and we know the suffering. As an act of retribution we allow you to wield our swords, but we have one condition." "What would that be?" Naruto asked. "That you find a group called the Akatsuki and destroy them. And while you're at it, destroy Orochimaru. That dang snake has been alive for far too long." "I accept your terms," Naruto said, smiling. "Good," Kyuubi said, "now there is something you should know. To be able to use our swords you must adapt to our chakra. The result will be some physical changes." "What kind of changes?" Naruto asked, wondering what would happen to him. "Well, heightened senses, some height, increased strength and speed, a few tails, nothing major." "Tails?" "Yes," the fox said, "there will be signs when you master all the swords. For the swords of light and dark a crystal will appear on the hilt. For our swords you will grow a tail. By the end of that you will be strong enough to take on the greatest army." "Okay," Naruto said, "but when I start to grow tails could you put up an illusion so other people don't know? I don't think anyone will appreciate me having tails. I have enough problems with the whisker marks on my cheeks." "Deal." At that moment all 9 beasts breathed in and let out massive burst of chakra at Naruto. Naruto took each blast and then blacked out. A while later Naruto woke up and looked around. He saw that he was still in the forest, only it was night time. He apparently was talking to the people longer than he thought. Naruto decided to head home and go to bed. He ran home at a speed he didn't even know he could go. When he walked into the bathroom he found something that really made him reel. He saw that he was taller, making him as tall as Sasuke, and that he had some red streaks in his blonde hair. He checked back and saw that he didn't have a tail, so he knew that he hadn't grown that much. Naruto thought one thing as he put on the pajamas and went to bed. "Look out, Konoha, your punching bag is ready to punch back." Time skipped 2 months later. Naruto had trained his butt off for the 2 months. He learned the jutsu that Kakashi-sensei gave him pretty quickly thanks to shadow clones. Unfortunately, he also found out that the old man was right. To many shadow clones, dispersing at once really did give you a killer headache. Naruto also trained in the sword's Santoryu style and mastered a few moves. He had only mastered the less complicated moves. They decided he would give one move a try in the fight with Neji to see if he could pull it off. The red leg style Naruto managed to get down easy. He had difficulty at first but managed to get it down. He found one move that really piqued his interest. The devil leg, as it was called, used enormous friction to increase the damage of a kick. As much as he wanted to, he decided to leave this one be. He was good, but he wasn't strong enough for a move like that yet. Naruto learned many songs with his violin. He also found out that when he played it he became very relaxed. At the end of the day he practiced and learned a great deal of songs. Finally, at the end of the 2 months it was time, and Naruto had an idea for a flashy entrance. He learned from Kyuubi that the enhancement he took to wield the swords of the 9 Biju also gave him an affinity for each element, since it took all 9 Biju to do it. He would have asked Kakashi-sensei for some new jutsu, but he just decided to leave it be. He didn't want to end up arrogant and demanding like Sasuke. At the arena everyone was gathered. All the fighters were in the arena while everyone else sat in the stands waiting for the fights to start. The only fighters that weren't in the arena were Naruto and Sasuke. "I wonder where Naruto is," Ino asked. "Who cares about that blonde idiot?" Sakura asked. "He probably get beaten by Neji. The only one worth watching is Sasuke-kun." Ino looked at her friend. She was surprised at how she had belittled her teammate. She was starting to wonder what Naruto saw in her. In the cage booth, the case cage, and Hiruzen sat and waited for things to start. "Where is he?" Hiruzen asked. "I hope he doesn't end up late." "Yes," the case cage said. "I am also wondering where the Uchiha is." "I wasn't talking about him," Hiruzen said. "I was talking about someone else." The old man stood up before the case cage could ask him to clarify. "To those who made it the far," he said, speaking into a microphone, "I congratulate you on making it. Here we will choose who will receive the rank of Chunin. To those who participate, good luck. To those of you who didn't, there's always next year." "All right," the proctor, Genma, said. "Would Neji Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki please approach the center of the arena?" Neji walked forward when he noticed that Naruto wasn't to be seen. He smirked to himself. The failure apparently figured out that he could not defy fate, Neji said smugly. Genma rolled his eyes. Why was it that every clan member with a bloodline was so arrogant? He was about to call the match when a clap of thunder reached his ears. Everybody looked up to see the clouds turning dark and forming a funnel. Then out of said funnel something fell. It looked like a large comet, only it was made out of the 5 main elements: water, earth, fire, tightly compressed air, and lightning. The tail was made of lava, boiling water, a liquid metal, and wood that was breaking up as it fell, making look like a comet's tail. The comet slammed into the ground in the center of the ring. When the smoke cleared, everyone had to do a double take with what they saw. In the center of the crater stood a tall blonde with red streaks in his blonde hair. He wore a black skin-tight shirt that showed his muscles, causing a blush to go through the girls and women of the arena. The hat on long baggy jeans and a pair of black sandals on his feet. Over his shirt he wore a black trench coat with kanji for rage on the back and red flames licking at the bottom. In between the rage and flames was the image of a fox with 9 tails. A few people bristled at that. He also wore a belt that had the Konoha symbol on the buckle. Unknown to everyone, on the back of the belt under the trench coat he had the 3 scrolls for his sword sets connect to the back. He had on a pair of black gloves, fingerless gloves, and the kanji for music tattooed on his forearm. Naruto grinned and looked up as he had been previously, hanging his head, hiding his eyes with his bangs. "Naruto Uzumaki is here." "That's Naruto?" Ino asked, shouted as she saw the new and improved version of the blonde knucklehead. Sakura was staring too, but was in denial. She was trying to convince herself that there was no one who could look better than her Sasuke. Choji was frozen in mid-chew and staring at Naruto. Kiba was smirking. He had a feeling that the match with Neji was going to be brutal. Hinata was currently holding her nose to prevent the massive nosebleed that would have erupted when she saw Naruto's muscles. Down in the arena, Tamari was staring at Naruto. Wow, she thought, this kid went from loud-mouthed squirt to hot stud in less than 2 months. I hope he's still single. Kankuro was noting the look on his sister's face and was grinning as he knew that he could use this as blackmail material later. Shikamaru's eyes were wide, but he still had that bored look on his face. Troublesome, he said out loud. Gaara had on a slight sadistic smile as he stared at the blonde. Maybe he can help me prove my existence, he thought. Shino was wondering what had happened to the boy that made him change so drastically. He was also starting to wonder how he was able to do that thing when he entered the arena. Am I late, Proctor? Naruto asked. No, Genma said smirking, you made it just in time. Now the match between Neji Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki will begin. Genma then decided to get the HEKC out of there because he had a feeling that this was going to be a rough one. The other contestants all filed out of the arena and went up to the fighter's box. Up in the stands, two Chunin Kotetsu and Uzumo both sat and watched the match. "The kid's come far," Izumo said. "Yeah," Kotetsu said, "but is this kid strong enough to fight a prodigy of the Hyuga clan?" In the arena, Neji faced Naruto and crossed his arms. "Give up now," he said, "there is no way that you can defy fate." He didn't receive a reply. "Are you listening to me?" "You know Neji," Naruto said, "why don't you just shut your mouth already? I got a Chunin flag jacket with my name on it and I'm not getting any closer to it listening to you go on and on about how hard your life's been. These people came to see a face, so why don't we just give them one?" Neji smirked and activated his Byakugan. "Fine by me," he said, smirking. "Watch closely, Hanabi." Hiyashi Hyuga, the patriarch of the Hyuga clan, said to his youngest daughter, "There is no other Hyuga who has blood thicker than Neji's." The young girl simply nodded, showing that she was listening. She watched, wanting to see if the boy really could fight. In the arena, Neji charged at Naruto, who just stood there. Just as Neji was about to strike, he mauve-bed skillfully to the left and went through hand signs. Hidden mist jutsu. A thick fog covered the arena and people were starting to complain that they couldn't see the fight. "So you know a new jutsu," Neji said, "it doesn't change a thing." Naruto smirked and added more chakra to the mist, making it denser and denser. When it was dense enough, he focused into the seal on his arm and brought out a black violin with red and gold trimming plus a bow. Naruto set the bow to the strings and began to play. As he did, a beautiful yet sad song rose from the arena. Everyone heard it, closed their eyes and enjoyed the song. It seemed to bring back memories of loved ones that were long since gone. Neji heard it and it brought back memories of his father. How he and him used to goof around before he died. When the song ended, the mist lit up and showed Naruto playing. "So you can play an instrument," Neji said. "Do you really think that will help you?" "Actually," Naruto said, "I do." Naruto then began to play another song, only this time he focused chakra into one of the kanji symbols on the side. As he played, Neji noticed something. The strings were glowing. Sudden electricity began to leap from the strings a little bit. As Naruto sped up, the lighting increased in amount until the bow seemed to be made of electricity. Naruto then took the bow and stuck it out, yelling, "Ninja art, thunder song." A huge bolt of lightning leapt from the bow and went straight for Neji. Neji realized this and dodged it just in time for it to graze his cheek. The bolt went right past him and struck the wall, blasting a hole in it. Everyone was currently staring at that. Who would have thought that music could be used as a weapon? "Music as a weapon?" the cage said, raising an eyebrow. "I think they may have underestimated the boy when they said he was the dead last." "Indeed," Sarutobi said with a smirk. In the stands, Hanabi was currently staring at Naruto. She had been taught that power was everything, and that was currently showing. Naruto now had his violin sealed into the kanji on his arm and smirked at Neji. "I hope that that's not all you got, little girly boy," he taunted, "because it's not all I can do." Neji recovered from his shock and charged at Naruto. Naruto jumped out of the way and shot an arm forward, hitting Neji in the face. The prodigy was knocked back and looked at Naruto to see him swirling a windmill shuriken in his hand. Naruto spun it a bit before throwing it. Neji ducked and shot forward and nailed Naruto in the chest with a gentle fist strike. "I told you he'd lose," Sakura said with a smirk at Ino. Back in the arena, Neji smirked until he saw Naruto smirk himself and said, "Sucker." The Naruto then turned into a puff of smoke. "A shadow clance? Then where's the— oh, Neji?" Neji turned around to see the large shuriken Naruto had thrown burst into smoke and then reveal the real Naruto with another windmill shuriken. He threw it and went through hand signs. Windmill shadow shuriken. The one windmill shuriken Naruto had thrown now became 20. But he wasn't done there. He went through more hand signs and yelled, "Wind style, great breakthrough." Naruto shoved his hands forward and a blast of wind shot out. Each shuriken, now spinning like saw blades, went even faster at Neji. Said boy frowned and focused his chakra and spun. "Rotation," he yelled. The shuriken all bounced off. "He knows a wind jutsu too?" Tamari thought, "Now I really want to get a date with this guy." "Father," Hanabi said, "that's the—" "Yes," Hiyashi said, "such talent wasted on the branch family." Neji was starting to slow down from the rotation and Naruto saw an opening L. He rushed forward and said, "Ribs." Neji stopped spinning just in time to take a hard kick to the chest. The sudden feeling of made him wince and he thought he heard something crack. He was sent back a bit from the kick and clutched his chest in pain. "How did you get past the rotation?" he asked. It was one of the strongest moves in the Hyuga arsenal and a commoner had just gotten past it. "Every defense has a weakness," Naruto said. "Yours is that you slow down when you stop the move. I took advantage of that." The Hyuga in the stands were speechless. This brat had just found way past their ultimate defense. They were starting to think that this kid had stolen clan secrets. "You know bug eyes," Naruto said. "I'm starting to get a little bored. What do you say we end this? One more for each of us. I'll even let you go first." Everyone was shocked. One move to end it? And he was letting Neji make the first move? Was this kid nuts? Even so, they were wondering what would happen next. "Fine, Neji Siad, prepare to face the reality of fate, loser." Neji took a stance that shocked the Hyuga members present. "Trigrams. 128 palms." Neji yelled while charging at Naruto. 2 palms, 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms, 128 palms. Each strike held true to its mark. Neji smirked as he had won. The key word be thought. His smirk soon vanished when Naruto vanished in a puff of smoke. Neji looked around and saw the ground break behind him. Naruto jumped out of the ground and smirked at him. "Word to the wise Neji," Naruto said, "if you want to beat me you have to stop underestimating me." All the Hyuga were really starting to get irritated now. This kid, this no-name loser, had just bypassed their strongest moves like they were nothing. The Hyuga Council was now plotting to have him executed for stealing clan secrets. "My turn now," Naruto said as he reached into his trench coat. Naruto pulled out a scroll that had the word dark in kanji on it. Naruto then performed a few hand signs and the scroll opened. As it did, a burst of black chakra came out. From Sid burst Naruto pulled out a sword that everyone stared at. It was about 2 feet long with a black blade and Shadow Fox written in red kanji on the blade. At the bottom of the blade was the image of a fox with flames coming out of its mouth. "I've been wanting to try out this move for a while now," Naruto said as he took a stance with the sword on the right side of his body with the blade pointed down to the ground. His right hand was on the handle while his right hand was on the blade. He was very careful not to cut himself. He focused and said, "One sword style, Lion Song." Naruto vanished in a blur and reappeared on the other side of Neji, his sword in a different position, meaning he had swung it. Ash! He stopped. The echo of a lion's roar echoed through the stadium. Everyone waited with bated breath as they waited for something to happen. Seconds later Neji screamed in pain. There was a black lash of chakra running down his chest into the ground. A long cut down his body formed. Neji fell to the ground on his back in pain, clutching his front. In the stands, Ten was staring at Naruto's sword with hearts in her eyes. Her father Dan Higurashi was staring also, but only because he knew what that weapon was. He really is her son, he thought. He smiled as he saw the look on his daughter's face. He knew that she would be pursuing him in the future. He just hoped that she didn't get heartbroken, because then he would have to go medieval on Naruto's butt. Winner of the first match, Naruto Uzumaki. Genma yelled. The crowd was silent until then everyone just burst applauding. Naruto smirked and bowed. As the medics came and took Neji off the field, Naruto stopped them. He leaned down and whispered into Neji's ear, 2 words: bug eyes, counter seal. As Naruto whispered those words, realization dawned on Neji like a gong. He then began to chastise himself because none of the branch family had actually thought of this sooner. He was referring to making a counter seal for the caged bird seal. If they had come up with this sooner, then they wouldn't be in the pain they were and his father might be alive. He actually won, Ino gasped. Sakura was completely silent as she was trying to decipher the fact that the dead last had just beaten last year's Rookie of the Year. That did not just happen. There's no way Naruto is this strong, she thought. It has to be a genjutsu. Yeah, that's it, a genjutsu. Kiba smirked. He was really glad that Naruto beat Neji. Now he didn't feel as humiliated that he had lost to Naruto before. Weird, huh? What do you think? Katetsu asked his companion. I think this guy deserves to be promoted to Chunin, Izumo answered. Chunin, Asuma, who was listening in their conversation, said, "This kid found out how to counter two powerful moves form one of the most powerful clans in Konoha. He replaced himself with a shadow cone and hanged into a windmill shuriken. He hid underground to avoid the trigram's move. He even tricked Neji into letting him use a surprisingly strong technique with that violin of his. Not to mention those moves he used were very impressive, and that was only a few things. Personally, I think this kid should be a Jonin right now." The two nodded to each other. They had to admit that even though Naruto had only done a few things, that they were all in fact rather impressive. They decided then that Naruto would be one of the ones who would be promoted to Chunin. Now they couldn't wait to see what this kid could do during the Jonin exam. Now that was something that they were really looking forward to. With the Hyuga's, Hanabi was practically drooling over Naruto. Right now she was thinking of the power that could come to their clan if she were to have kids with him. The Hyuga Council was thinking something along the same lines and was trying to think of a way to marry him off to Hanabi. Hiashi, however, knew what they were thinking and he didn't like it. He didn't like that fact that they had made his youngest a power-hungry runt. He knew that his wife would be weeping over the idea. He had tried to change her like her sister, but the council always threatened her with turning her into breeding stock for the Branch family. The very thought made his stomach churn. Right now he was hoping that he could find a way to get rid of those old farts so he could finally have his family back. Naruto walked up to the fighter's box and was instantly besieged by the others. "Naruto, how the heck did you get so strong?" Shikamaru asked. "First of all, I started training right," Naruto said, "and second, I finally dropped my mask." "So you dropped it, huh?" Shikamaru said. "Good, it was getting a little bit annoying to find private places for us to play shogi." "They play shogi?" Shino thought as he looked at Naruto and Shikamaru. The next match was supposed to be between Sasuke and Gaara, but Sasuke hadn't shown up. Due to him not being here, Genma said, "Sasuke Uchiha is hereby disqualified." The crowd instantly began to voice their opinions. "That's not fair," Sakura yelled. Naruto just shook his head. He was really starting to wonder what he had seen in her at the academy. "Now for the next match, will Kankuro Sabuka and Shino Aburame please come down to the arena?" Genma said. "Darn it," Kankuro mentally cursed. "I wasn't supposed to reveal what I can do until after Gaara's match." Apparently that Uchiha's ego got the better of him. "No, really surprising. Proctor," he said, "I withdraw." Shino started to buzz, meaning he was annoyed. The crowd booed, showing that EHY were obviously displeased with what had happened. "Okay," Genma said, "now will Tamari Abaku and Shikamaru Nara come down to the arena?" Tamari took out her fan and was about to go down when Naruto stopped her. "Beat him," he whispered into her ear, "and I'll reward you." Tamari blushed fiercely and flew down fast so she could get that reward. Shikamaru was about to forfeit when Naruto picked him up by the back of his shirt, threw him up a bit and then hit him with a roundhouse kick, sending him out of the fighter's box and down the wall. Shikamaru then threw out a couple of kunai and caught himself. "Phew," he sighed, then he felt the kunai start to give way. No, 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 no. He fell down the rest of the way and landed on his back. He got up and faced Tamari. The entire match mostly consisted of Tamari using her fan to send out massive blasts of wind. Shikamaru usually hid to avoid them and used his shadow possession jutsu to try and grab her, but she figured out how far it could go before it stopped. Shikamaru then used his jacket, tied it to a kunai and let it float due to the air-blasted form Temari's wind scythe jutsu. Unfortunately, she dodged that. After thinking again, he said, "Got tired of this. This is too troublesome," he said, "I'm just gonna end this." Shikamaru threw out a flash bomb and Tamari was temporarily blinded. Fortunately, the light made his shadow extend and he caught her. Tamari was frozen. She was praying that he didn't do anything dumb to her. It was at that moment that Shikamaru forfeited. "Why?" Tamari asked as she was released from the shadow's hold. "You had me in the corner." "I didn't have much chakra left," the lazy boy explained. "I couldn't hold on for much longer, so I just ended the whole thing." The two Chunin examiners had to admit that though he was lazy, he had a point. He had shown excellent abilities in strategy and he knew when he was almost out of chakra. Most people would have tried to continue and fight. That would have resulted in them getting killed. They found another person who would ascend in the ranks. They also figured that Tamari was another worthy candidate. She showed some skills with wind jutsu and strategy. Should have figured that would happen, Naruto said as he watched Shikamaru walk back up to the fighter's box. Temari flew up and landed in front of Naruto. So, she said, where's my reward? Naruto smirked and leaned in and kissed Temari on the cheek, effectively making her blush bright red. Kankuro snickered at the look on his sister's face. He would definitely be using this as blackmail. Now for the semifinal match, Genma announced, would Gaara Sabaku and Naruto Uzumaki come down to the arena so we can begin? Gaara disappeared and reappeared in a swirl of sand while Naruto jumped down and landed in front of the sand ninja. Uzumaki, Gaara growled. I hope that you are able to prove my existence. I just hope that you are able to handle what I can give you, Naruto said with a smirk. Genma was about to start the match when there was sudden swirl of sleeves topped him. Out of said swirl appeared Kakashi and Sasuke. Sasuke was now completely dressed in black with bandages wrapped around his arms and legs. Are we late? Kakashi asked. Yeah, Genma said, your match was cancelled and the boy was disqualified. What? Sasuke yelled, I can't be disqualified. I'm an Uchiha. Does it look like I care? Genma asked, now get off the battlefield before I throw you off. Sasuke saw Gaara and charged at him but was cut off when Naruto spun and threw out a leg and struck Sasuke in the stomach, sending him back. Sasuke would have gotten up and gone at Naruto, but Kakashi gave him a quick chop to the neck, knocking him out. Kakashi groaned as he did. He was really starting to wonder what the heck was wrong with the council and this brat. Sorry Genma, Kakashi said as he lifted Sasuke off the ground, you can continue your match. Okay, Genma said, turning to the two combatants. Now the semifinal match between Gaara Sabaku and Naruto Uzumaki. Begin. Naruto opened his mouth, letting out a huge fireball. The flames slammed into Gaara's sand wall and turned to glass. Did the same thing until glass was all over the arena, making Gaara a sitting duck. He charged at Gaara's shadow fox at the reed when the glass suddenly broke down and then converged. Luckily Naruto sensed the sand coming and got out of the way before he could get turned into shish kebab. Dang it, Naruto though, he can turn glass right back into sand. I got to wrap my brain around this. In the audience everyone was staring. The Rookie 9 were staring because they didn't know Naruto knew a strong jutsu. The Suna siblings were staring because they were surprised Naruto was actually still alive. Normally someone would be dead going against their brother by now. Naruto was thinking of a way to get this guy when he got an idea. He went through more hand signs and yelled, water style, water bullet. Why couldn't I copy that jutsu? Sasuke seethed as he saw Naruto knew a move that he didn't. Kakashi just smiled under his mask. His student had come a long way in just a few months. Naruto launched a few balls of water from his mouth that collided with the sand Gaara was using. He fired more and more until he stopped after firing 6. Is that all you got, Uzumaki? Gaara asked. I thought you were stronger than this. Gaara then summoned his sand but was surprised when it rose up but fell back to the ground. He tried again but it failed again. You ever been to the beach? Naruto asked, getting the redhead's attention. If water mixes with sand it becomes a big clump of mud. And since you can't control it I can do this. Naruto appeared in front of Gaara and swung out a leg. Ribs. The blow from the kick knocked Gaara back. For the first time in his life Gaara actually felt pain. Naruto appeared in front of him again and cried, legs. This kick knocked him into the air. Since Gaara wasn't able to control himself in mid-air he was defenseless again. What happened next? Lower back, shoulder, neck shoot, ultimate mincemeat. The following kicks hit Gaara in the respective places. The final one knocked him back down to the ground. In the stand Guy was staring at the fighting style Naruto was using. I've never seen a fighting style like that, Guy said. I wonder what it's called. It's called the red leg style, Kakashi said, getting looks from everyone. I've never heard of that style, Guy said. How does Naruto know it? This fighting style, Kakashi explained, uses only the legs. The result is extreme leg strength. So much that it rivals Tsunade's strength with her fists. How does some clan-less idiot know it when Sasuke doesn't? Sakura asked. She immediately regretted it as she felt her sensei glare at her. Just because he doesn't know his parents' names, Kakashi growled, doesn't mean that he doesn't have a clan. Now sit down and shut up. Sakura did just that. The other Junin were looking at Kakashi in surprise. They weren't expecting him to stand up for the supposed dead last on his team. Back in the arena Gaara rose up with a groan. Pain, he growled, intense pain. This is the fight I've been longing for. You shall prove my existence. Gaara's sand had dried and he was able to use it again. He sent it at Naruto, who dodged again. Gaara brought out more sand and Naruto got an idea. He flipped through more signs and yelled, "Water style, great vortex." Out of the ground rose a lot of water forming the jutsu and was sent flying at Gaara. This once again made his sand useless and soaked him. Naruto charged at him, this time his leg extended out as he neared the soaked red head. He yelled, "Mutton shot." The kick collided with Gaara's ribs, making a loud cracking noise. The boy was sent flying and hit the wall. Gaara fell to his knees groaning in pain. "Hey Sandy," Naruto said, "I got another lesson for you. When sand also has a bit of iron in it. When you get sand wet and when you're covered in it, you get a fried red head. Lightning style. Atlas grip." Naruto vanished again and appeared in front of Gaara. Then he swept him up into a tight bear hug. As soon as he did, Naruto sent out a lot of electricity, frying the red head. As the move ended, Naruto lifted Gaara over his head and threw him like a toy towards the center of the ring, where he hit with a loud thud. Sasuke was really seething now as he saw two more jutsu he didn't know and couldn't copy. What the heck was going on? Kakashi noticed this too and began to wonder why. He would have to ask Naruto later. Right now he had to keep his other student under control. Gaara rose up again and groaned, "I will not lose to you." This time sand burst from the ground, covering a lot of the area around them. "Oh man, I'm going to need more than a little water to fix this up." Naruto had to think fast, otherwise what happened to Lee was going to look like a scratch when he was finished. Naruto had to think fast. Then he decided it was time to fight fire with fire. He sealed Shadow Fox back in its scroll, then went through multiple hand signs. As he did, he was enveloped in a sudden burst of wind. Gaara narrowed his eyes to see through. When he got through, he saw something that shocked. Naruto now had 3 swords. On in each hand and a third one in his teeth. The one his left hand was a silver color with "Raging Storm" written in kanji with the picture of a hawk on the bottom of the blade. The one in his right was a yellowish color with "Roaring Wind" written in kanji and the picture of a cheetah on the bottom of the blade. The one in his teeth, though, was what got Gaara's attention. It was a brownish color with "Bleeding Sand" written in black kanji and a picture of one tail on the bottom. In the stands, 1010 was staring at all 3 swords. "Daddy," she said, "I haven't seen this kind of sword style before." "It's called Santoryu," her father Dan Higurashi said. "Instead of using just 1 or 2, it uses a third. I thought that the style was lost years ago." Back in the arena, Shukaku was screaming his head off at Gaara. "Kid," Shukao yelled in Gaara's head, "I know that sword. You have to end this now before he uses it." Naruto went through hand signs and yelled, "Shadow Clone Jutsu." 2 shadow clones appeared. Naruto noticed that they had 3 swords as well, but they were regular katana. "Looks like my swords can't copy," Naruto thought. The 3 clones took a sword fighting stance and yelled, "Uzumaki style, 9 swords barrage." The 3 clones shot forward and ran at Gaara. Gaara sent out his sand and the 3 Narutos shot forward. Naruto smirked as the sand closed in on him. Then, using the power of bleeding sand, manipulated it so it stayed away from him. How is he doing that? Gaara thought. "Kid," Shukaku cried, "that sword is called bleeding sand. A long time ago me and the other tailed beasts put our chakra in a 9 swords. While he has that, he has my power." Unfortunately for Gaara, the 3 Naruto closed in. Now with his sand disabled, he couldn't detonate himself. The first Naruto turned his swords to where they were all pointing the same way. Then he swooped in like a top and yelled, "Tornado." The result was a Naruto spinning and Gaara being sent in the air by a sudden twister by the 3 swords and a few cuts on his chest. The second Naruto disappeared and appeared in mid-air above Gaara. He drew back the 2 swords in his hands and swung them while shoving his head forward, yelling, "Demon cut." Gaara screamed in pain as 3 more gashes appeared on Gaara's chest. The was sent to the ground, forming a few cracks. Gaara slowly rose up just in time to see the original Naruto running towards him. Gaara managed to bring a little sand to fight Naruto. When he did, Naruto bobbed and weaved until he was standing in front of the sand user. He swung his swords a few times and stood behind him. "Bleeding the wolf," Gaara screamed as the large cuts appeared. Gaara fell to his knees in pain. He focused and formed a dome of sand around him, defending himself. Oh no, he's actually going to use that here, Temari thought. Naruto noticed this and sensed a lot of demonic chakra. He knew what was happening. He thought viciously to find a way that could pierce that dome. Then he got an idea. He guessed he will have to use these when he fought Gaara because of his sand defense. All right, you two, he said, time for the iron sandbreaker. The clones nodded and went through hand signs and yelled, water style, water bullet. The clones unleashed multiple water bullets from their mouths and soaked the sand, making it weaker and weaker. Finally Naruto took a stance and swung his swords, yelling, 3 sword technique, 108-pound cannon. Chakra came off the 3 swords and a blast of energy went forward at the dome. The chakra went together to form a drill and pierced the dome. Gaara formed and slashed him across the chest. Gaara hit the ground and lost consciousness. Genma looked Gaara over and saw that this kid was just out cold. He was surprised that he was still alive after getting all those cuts on his chest. He was surprised that his heart wasn't cut. Winner. Naruto Uzumaki. Darn it, Orochimaru thought. I have to call off the invasion. I'll kill you someday, old man. Someday I will. He made a discreet hand sign calling off the invasion. The crowd cheered as Naruto put his swords back in the scrolls. Naruto smirked as he walked off the battlefield. Sasuke was watching Naruto walk out of the arena. Where did that loser get that power? I deserve it more than him. Sasuke thought. There's no way he can be that strong, it has to be a trick. Sakura thought. The teams then went down to the fighter's box to meet Naruto. Sasuke approached Naruto with a frown on his face. Dobi, Sasuke growled. Where did you get that power? I earned it, simple, Naruto said. Naruto, Kakashi said, I had to say that you've come far. I'm proud to call you my student. I also see that you've gotten use of the Santoryu style down. Yeah, Naruto said, smiling. Good thing I got that and those other moves, otherwise I'd be a stain on the ground. Dobi, I demand that you give me those swords. No can do, Teme, Naruto said. What? Sakura screeched, give him those swords, Baka. He deserves them more than you do. Okay, Naruto said, cleaning out his ear. Did anyone else understand that? I don't speak Howler Monkey. Sakura did a double take, as did everyone else. Naruto had just insulted her. First of all, Sakura, Naruto said, his eyes narrowing, I'm sick of your screeching. So do us all a favor and shut your mouth, you worthless pain in the neck. Sakura's eyes started to tear up and she ran away crying. Man, that felt good, Naruto said, and as for not giving you the swords, Teme, I have my reasons. First off, some of them are sentient. The others each come with their own summoning contracts. If you try to take them, you'd have to face them all. You wouldn't last a heartbeat. Liar, Sasuke said. Those swords obviously belong to an elite like me. So hand them over to me or else. Sasuke, Kakashi said, drop it. Those swords belong to Naruto, be right from his mother. So unless you want to fight a lot of summons and then duke it out him, I suggest that you keep your mouth shut and learn your boundaries. Sasuke snarled at that. This man was denying him what was rightfully his. This guy was supposed to be helping him grow stronger. He needed that power so that he could defeat his brother. Sasuke jumped at him with the intent of ripping the information out of him. Unfortunately for him, Naruto spun on his heel and connected a kick to his side and knocked him through a wall. Dang, Naruto said, that really felt good. Now that the place has been fixed up, Genma said, will Naruto Uzumaki and Temari Subaku please come down to the arena? Proctor, Temari yelled, I forfeit. She looked at Naruto, who looked a little bit confused. If you can do all that to my brother, then imagine what you can do to me. Don't worry, Temari, Naruto said, I wouldn't rough you that much. Unless, of course, you want me to. Temari blushed at the fact that Naruto was flirting with her. She had to admit, even though this kid was hot, she would admit she would date him. She just wished that they didn't live so far apart. Winner of the Chunin exams tournament, Naruto Uzumaki, Genma stated, getting roars from the crowd. Now, he said as the crowd calmed, we'll have a few minutes to see who will become Chunin. For those of you who have to go to the bathroom, do yourself a favor and go. It was at that moment that a few people got up and went to the bathroom. While that happened, a certain Hyuga patriarch came down and approached Naruto. Young man, he said, getting Naruto's attention. Oh hello Lord Hyuga, Naruto said, sorry about beating your nephew so bad, but let's face it, that pain in the neck had it coming. Yes, Hiyashi said, letting a rare smile cross his face, It does tend to get annoying when a person keeps going on about fate all the time. I hope you managed to beat that out of him. Now I must ask, how did you know to get past the rotation? Well, Naruto said, I saw that you had to spin to use it. When you slow down you leave yourself open. I read about it in the combat journal of some old ninja who fought a Hyuga before. I hate to say it, but you are going to need some new moves to keep enemies guessing. If this had been a fight outside the village, he would be dead and his eyes and balls would be gone, and another village would have their own Hyuga bloodline. Good thing, Hisashi said, the Hyuga council is starting to think that you stole secrets from the clan. Now I can tell them otherwise. Hisashi then turned and left. Naruto smirked. He knew that later he would be hearing from the council about hurting Sasuke, but he guessed that he could just ignore them as usual. After a few minutes of waiting, the Hokage came down with 3 flag jackets. Now that the tournament has concluded, he said, now those who will rise in rank to Chunin can come forth. Will Shikamaru Nara, Naruto Uzumaki, and Tamari Subaku please come forth? Said 3 teens came down and approached the old fire shadow. You 3 showed qualities that make you good candidates for Chunin. Shikamaru, you showed impressive abilities in strategy and you knew when you were almost out of chakra. Normally someone would push their limits. For this you have received this rank. He handed the flak jacket to the lazy boy. Tamari Subaku, he continued, you showed abilities in strategy and winjutsu. A rare combination that is not shown among most ninja. For this I give you this rank. May you serve the Sand Village well. He handed her the jacket. She took it with a smile. Finally, Naruto Uzumaki, he said, turning to the last one, I have to say you caught a lot of people by surprise. You showed power and smarts. You were able to bring down 2 strong opponents and all the while taking everyone by surprise. Your mother would be proud. For all this I give you the rank of Chunin. He handed the flak jacket to Naruto, who gave a foxy grin to his grandfather figure. Congratulations, Sarutobi said, and make your villages proud. What a drag, Shikamaru said, more work. Yeah, Naruto said, but at least this will get your mother off your back. Troublesome, he said. Outside the village, Orochimaru and his right-hand man Kabuto were making their way to the Sound Village. Are you sure we can just leave Lord Orochimaru? Kabuto asked. He didn't have any doubt in his master's judgment, but he was really looking forward to the invasion. With Gaara beaten we can't have the distraction we need, the Snake Sanin said, and the summons would be a waste of time and energy. We can't invade them now, but we can try to later. We have all the time in the world. With those two, the 2 left and headed home. One day, Orochimaru thought, one day I will kill you, old man. Naruto was hanging around his apartment. He had been given the rank of Chunin and was right now just trying to relax after a few hard battles. He was just lying on the couch when he heard a knock at the door. When he answered it, he found a female Chunin who had a fair amount of pink in her cheeks. The hunk Hokage would like to see you, Naruto-kun, she said, doing her best to not get embarrassed around the blonde. Naruto nodded at her. She left, tripping over her feet comically as she took on last look at him. Naruto shook his head and left for the Hokage's office. Naruto ran across the rooftops to avoid the villagers. Eventually he arrived at the tower and entered the old man's office. Inside was a man with long white hair, a helmet that had the kanji for oil on it, a fishnet undershirt with a red gi over it. He had red marks on the side of his face. Hey old man, who's this? Naruto asked. The old man was about to explain when an Anbu appeared out of nowhere. Hokage-sama, he said, the council has requested your presence. The old man sighed. Then he got a devious grin. He knew what the council had planned. And he knew how to get back at them. Naruto, the old fire shadow said, it appears that I will have to wait to tell you your heritage. Although I can reveal it to the council. That should make a few heads turn. Naruto nodded and Kakashi, who was with him, smiled under his mask. They 3 then headed to the council chambers. As soon as they entered, a civilian councilman started mouthing off. You brat, he growled, how dare you take what is rightfully the Uchiha's? You will give him your Chunin rank. No, he's not, Kakashi said. Sasuke's ego kept him from arriving on time. Naruto did, thus he gets to move through the ranks. For those of you who don't want this, take it up with the Hokage. Silence, Kakashi, Homura said, you're speaking out of turn. No, Naruto said, you're speaking out of turn, you old relic. You're here to advise only. You don't have a say in these matters. So do us all a favor and keep your yap shut. The ninja clan heads were doing their best to keep from laughing. The civilian side however was fuming at the boy who dared mouth off to them. Naruto, Sume said, getting the boy's attention. I have to ask, where did you get those swords? You see Sume, Naruto explained, after the preliminary round I went to Sensei to ask if he could train me. Unfortunately he couldn't because he had to train Sasuke. To make up for it though he brought me to the Hokage and managed to get the old man to give me my inheritance. Inheritance? A councilwoman asked, what inheritance? You are some clan less orphan. Actually, Sarutobi said, his clan is from Water Country. An emissary was sent here by their leaders WIHS to form an alliance. I believe her name was Kushina. Kushina Uzumaki? Hiyashi asked. The old man nodded. Hiyashi said after a few seconds, that would definitely explain the love of ramen. The other clan head agreed. Unfortunately the civilian half is a bunch of idiots. So what? One said, you're the spawn of a whore who spread her legs just so she could have a place to sleep. Legs. Naruto nailed the man in the legs, knocking him into the air. Nutcracker. The following kick was brought up where the sun don't shine. The result made Everman involuntarily wince at the sight of the impact. Even the ever-stoic Shibi Aburame had involuntarily moved. Never, Naruto growled, ever, insult my mother. Naruto, calm down, Sarutobi said in an attempt to calm him down. Now what were you saying before you were interrupted? Oh right, Naruto said as he began to calm down. Well, my inheritance included 3 sets of swords and 2 fighting styles. What were these swords? A pink-haired councilwoman asked. The first 2 sets are brothers in a sense. The swords of light and dark. The swords of dark were forged by a man and his followers who left their village. The swords of light were forged by his brother who was given the job of bringing him back. And the third set? The same woman asked. Those have some legend behind them. It is said that the founder of my clan and the village they lived in actually gained the favor of the 9-tailed beasts by fighting alongside them. As reward for it they each sent their chakra into 9 swords, thus creating these. The council was in shock. He had swords that had the powers of the 9 beasts. They were grinning greedily. Before they could say anything Inoichi Yamanaka interrupted them. What were the fighting styles they gave you? He asked. Those, Naruto explained, were the red leg style and the Santoryu sword style. The first one uses only the legs. This keeps the hands from taking damage. My guess it was made by someone who used their hands a lot. The other allows me to use 1 or more swords in combat. 1 in each hand and 1 in the teeth. We of the council demand that you hand over those techniques and swords to the great Uchiha so that he may become stronger, Koharu said, getting a glare from Naruto. Not going to happen, Naruto said. The swords of light and dark each come with a summoning contract. The swords of the tailed beasts are sentient, meaning that they have a bit of the demon they got their powers from inside them. All of them have accepted me. If the Uchiha were to try to take them then he would have to face all the summons plus the demons. He wouldn't last a heartbeat. As for my fighting styles, you have to be adept at swordsmanship to use the Santoryu. Plus the red leg style requires extreme leg strength and agility to perform. He'd break himself if he tried. Boy, a councilman growled, you will teach him or. Enough. The Hokage yelled. No, I was about to reveal the other half of Naruto's heritage. The part on his father's half of the family. Who was his father? Shusa Akamichi asked. Just look and take away the whisker marks, was all the old man said. Everyone did in fact look. It was then they saw a resemblance that made a few people's blood run cold. Minato? The pink-haired councilwoman asked. Impossible, Danzo said, he never married. Actually he did, Hiyashi said. How do you know? Kakashi asked. He knew, he just wanted to play dumb. It was a double wedding, the Hyuga patriarch said, between those 2 and me and my wife Hana. Moving on, Sarutobi said, I have decided to step down from the position of Hokage, but don't worry, I have already picked a candidate to take my place. Who would that be? Koharu asked. Tsunade Senju, the fire shadow said. The civilian council paled. She was as stubborn as they come. If she was the Hokage it would be impossible for them to get her under their thumb. Naruto, since you have been recently promoted, Sarutobi explained, you will be accompanying Jiraiya, your godfather, to find her. I think you will be enough to bring her here, being her godson and all. Naruto smiled at the old man. He was about to leave when there was knock at the window. It opened to reveal a small bird. To be precise, it was a desert bird. It had message in its beak which it gave to the Hokage, then it flew out. What is it? Naruto asked. It's a message from Suna, he said. Apparently it and sound were going to invade us. They found out recently that their leader had been killed and impersonated. Because of this they wish to make amends by marrying off the daughter of the late Cage. She will be wed to the Uchiha, said a civilian councilman. She is strong and she will bear him strong children. I think not, said the old fire shadow. They are marrying her off to one Naruto Uzumaki. Apparently they are afraid of him since he managed to beat Gaara. Naruto hung his head. Over his training he had realized he had feelings for Hinata. Because of this he probably wouldn't be able to go out with her. Naruto, the old fire shadow said, before you go I should tell you that you fall under the CRA. I'll take it, Naruto said, knowing he could have more than one wife, but I don't want any of you guys trying anything. If I marry a girl she'll love me for me. I'm not going to be stuck in a loveless marriage. The civilian council mentally cursed. So much for that idea. Now, Naruto said, when do we go to get my godmother? Tomorrow, Sarutobi said, at noon. Naruto smiled at his grandfather figure and walked out of the council room. Naruto made his way home when he heard something. He looked around but didn't find the source of the noise. He kept walking until he heard it again. He turned around this time and his eyes went wide. Behind him stood a lot of girls, all of which had hearts in their eyes. They were the one thing that no male ninja should ever have to face. They were fangirls. Naruto fan club. Attack, said one random woman. Naruto took this as a hint that he should get his butt out of there fast. He ran for his life as the girls who were in love with him gave chase. He ran for about an hour before he managed to lose them. I hope this isn't going to be a daily occurrence, Naruto thought as he arrived at his home. There was a note on the door. He pulled it down and read it. Dear Naruto, since you have been promoted and since you know of your father, I think it is time that you took your father's estate. In the meantime you might want to be careful. The civilian council will most likely try something to give the Uchiha your swords, so you might want to be careful. Signed, the old man. P.S. In the bottom of this note there is a seal that holds a scroll that holds the knowledge of how to forge weapons. You might need it at some point. Hint, hint, page P.S. Also to bring the scroll out just focus some chakra into it. Naruto smiled to himself. He then took the note and found the seal. He focused some chakra into the seal and a scroll popped out as well as some keys. Naruto guessed that it was for his father's estate. He walked through the village ignoring the glares he got and the looks of fascination he got from the females. He had to run from another group of fangirls, but he managed to lose them again. Eventually he arrived at an old-looking complex. Naruto could sense a genjutsu over it. He walked forward and disappeared through the illusion. As he walked through he was greeted by the sight of a massive complex about the size of the Hyuga compound. He walked into the courtyard. The courtyard had to be about half the size of a football field and had the Namikaze symbol in red stone in the ground. He looked around the place. The central mansion had a few floors which he guessed was for a lot of people staying. Naruto looked around some more. He found a weapons forge, a training dojo, a large kitchen, and what looked like a massive vault. Naruto knew that this was something that his father wouldn't want anyone trying to get their hands on. He guessed because of all the seals on it. Naruto had just finished looking around when he noticed that it was dark outside. He decided to head for the main mansion. He walked in and found that everything was in peak condition, like someone had been taking care of this place ever since. Naruto looked around until he found the master bedroom. He took off his coat and jeans and fell asleep on the bed. The next day high noon. Naruto was at gate waiting for his godfather to show up. He had been waiting for him to show up for a few minutes now and it was starting to get on his nerves a little bit. Hey Naruto. The boy turned to see Ino running toward him. She stopped a few feet away. What are you doing here? She asked. Well, Naruto explained, I'm waiting for my godfather. He and I have a mission. Cool, she said, what is it? To find my godmother Tsunade Senju. Tsunade? Ino asked, cool. Hey, when you see her could you ask her if I could have an autograph? She's my idol. Okay, Naruto said, I'll see what I can do. Naruto. Both teens turned to see a very angry Sakura storming up to them. Who do you think you are? She screeched. You took Sasuke's rightful place as a Chunin. No I didn't Sakura, Naruto said. He showed up late meaning his arrogance got the best of him. He has to get over it, otherwise he is going to get killed. Sakura would have continued screeching, but a large plume of smoke stopped her from doing that. Out of the smoke stepped a familiar figure that Naruto remembered. "Hey!" Naruto yelled, "You're that old guy the first saw in old man Sarutobi's office yesterday." "That's right," he said, "I am the great Jiraiya, the Toad Mountain Sage." "Wow," Naruto said, "and I thought Sasuke was full of himself." The old man's face faltered as he heard that. "Anyway kid, let's get going," the old man said, getting serious. The two then turned around and left. "Where are those two going?" Sakura asked. "They are on a mission to find Tsunade Senju," Ino answered. "Tsunade?" Sakura thought, "maybe I can get her to train me. I'll grow strong and then Sasuke will love me." Naruto and Jiraiya walked on. They walked mostly in silence until Naruto decided to ask a question. "So old man," he asked, "why did you leave me to the village?" "Well," Jiraiya said, "me and Tsunade both thought that you were dead." "What?" Naruto asked. Jiraiya sighed. He shook his head at how stupid he had been at that time. "Naruto," Jiraiya said, "when the fox was sealed in you, me and Tsunade were assigned to be your godparents. After the sealing we were approached by an Anbu. He said that you had died during the sealing. Tsunade was grieving that she had lost her brother and boyfriend, so she left with a broken heart. As for me, I was upset that your father's legacy wouldn't continue. Because of this I decided to leave the village for a while. I'm sorry that I couldn't be with you." "It's okay," he said, "if someone I knew died I would be upset too." "I mean, who wouldn't, right?" "Yeah," the sage replied. "Naruto, I have to tell you, while on this trip I'm going to teach you one of your father's favorite techniques." "Really?" Naruto said. "Awesome, what is it?" "I'll tell you when we find a place to stay," was the answer. Naruto groaned. He hoped that this was going to be a short mission. "So what can you tell me about my godmother?" Naruto asked. "Well," Jiraiya started, "she's tall, blonde, has a diamond tattoo on her forehead, well endowed. And she's older than he looks, so she wears a jujutsu to make herself look younger. Also, don't make her mad. If you do, you are more than likely to get punched through a wall. She's also known for gambling. Don't tell me she had a massive winning streak," Naruto stated. "No," Jiraiya corrected, "she's known as the legendary sucker. She has a bill of gambling debts as long as the Hokage monument." Naruto's sweat dropped as he heard this. "Why is it that every person in my family has some kind of problem? My mom was called a whore, my dad was hated for his power, my godfather's a pervert from what the old man told me, and my godmother is a very bad gambler. I hope that nothing else will happen." Meanwhile, a little ways away, two lone figures watched the two walk down the road. "Is that him?" the taller of the two figures asked. "Yes, it is," the shorter one said. "We have to wait until he's alone before we make our move." "Okay," the taller one said, "but I don't want to wait too long." Meanwhile, in sound, Lord Orochimaru, Kabuto said, "Two members of the organization have been seen in Fire Country." "Interesting," the snake said, "send two to follow them." Kabuto left. The snake growled. "You ruined my plans, boy," he said out loud. "I will get you for ruining my plans, Naruto Uzumaki." Unbeknownst to him, a female figure just outside his chamber heard his name. She ran away before he knew she was there. She ran to her room and closed the door behind her. She stared into space, considering what the old snake had said. "Is it really you, little brother?" There you have it, folks. Naruto knows his heritage and is under the CRA. I know some of you don't like it, but I just want something to make this story a bit more interesting. By the way, I just want you to know that I don't do lemons. I never will, so no making any suggestions. Who is the girl who claims Naruto is her brother? Who were the figures that were watching Naruto and Jiraiya? Will Tsunade come back? Only one way to find out. Preview. Naruto. Kamen Rider Kiva. Naruto stood in front of a large door. The voice in his head still driving him to open it. He pushed in and found the door was heavy, but he managed to get in. He looked around and saw something that made him stare in both awe and a little bit of fear. In the middle of the room was a massive stone. In said stone was a massive sword. He could only see the hilt and handle. The hilt was gold and in the shape of a bat with red eyes and had its mouth clamped down on the blade. Around the rock were a bunch of coffins. Each one was different. One was black with a bat symbol, another was white with the same symbol, another was white too but it had what looked like claw marks on it. Another one was blue with the image of a wolf's head, another was green with the image of a fish, and the final one was purple with the image of a fist on it. Naruto approached the stone. As he did, a thing of stairs appeared and Naruto slowly climbed it. He reached out slowly and grasped the hilt of the sword. As he did, there was sudden burst of energy. Naruto screamed as large amount of pain ran through his body. He didn't see what looked like stained glass marking ran up his body. Naruto fell back, the sword still in his grip, and fell to the ground. Naruto, Kakashi in his Anbu gear and a few other Anbu ran inside following the boy. "Don't worry Naruto," he said as he picked the boy up, "we'll get you back." "I don't think so Kakashi," one of the Anbu in an eagle mask, "the demon is weak now. Now we can finally kill him." As soon as he said that, a loud roar echoed through the room. The coffins began to shake. Suddenly the lids were thrown off. The Anbu took a step back as figures came out of the coffins. The one from the black coffin wore red and black armor with a black cape. The shoulder armor was spike and the helmet had a green visor. The top had bat symbol with a green crystal. The top of the visor's points had been modeled after bat wings. On his belt he had what looked like an upside-down bat that had yellow eyes. The one rising out of the first white coffin wore mostly white armor. His chest had what looked like the design of a window you would have in a church window. His visor was bright blue. In his left hand he had a white rod with a blue circle that had a long red blade coming off. It looked like a sword you use in fencing. His belt had what looked like a mouth going out of the top and a large blue circle. The one rising out of the second coffin had white armor also and a blue visor, but he had his modeled after claws. He had chains wrapped tightly around his arms. On his belt was also an upside-down bat, only this one was white with red eyes that looked like they were made into an angry face. The one coming out of the blue coffin looked like a blue humanoid wolf with a gold horn on his head. The one coming out of the green coffin was covered in green scales, making him look like a fish. He had red eyes. The final one coming out of the purple coffin was a huge purple hulk of a man. His red eyes gleaming. If you looked from behind he would have looked like a big purple fist. Everyone was staring at the things that rose out of the coffins. "I told you he was demon," the Anbu in an eagle mask yelled. "He has brought more demons to fight us. We must kill him now." He was stopped however as he felt a large amount of killing intent aimed at him. He turned to see all the figures staring at him. "You," growled the one in red and black, "will not touch our king." With those words they all charged. Jiraiya and Naruto walked around for a while until they arrived at some hotel where they could stay. At that moment a pretty girl came up to the old man saying she knew who he was and that she was a huge fan of his work. At that moment the old man left with her, leaving Naruto and his tenant alone. The boy just signed and went to the room that they had gotten and sat down on the bed. As he did, the fox decided to talk to him. "Hey Kit," the fox spoke up. "What's up furball?" Naruto asked him as he heard that voice. Ignoring that, the fox muttered, "I have something to tell you. You can only master one sword of the tailed beast at one time." "What?" the blonde queried as he heard this. "Why? Each sword holds some of the chakra from each of the beasts," the fox explained. "The more tails the stronger the sword. If you use one sword before you're ready you could end up destroying yourself, and I really don't think that anyone you know would want that." Naruto had to admit that that was a good point. He really didn't want to die. Especially from chakra poisoning. I mean, who could that happen to? Naruto was still thinking when there was a knock at the door. He got up to answer it, and when he opened it he got a good shock. In front of him stood two men with black robes with red clouds on them. The shorter of the two had onyx eyes like Sasuke. The taller of the two had blue skin and was hoisting something on his back that was covered in bandages. Naruto guessed it was a sword since he saw a handle coming out of the bottom. Naruto Uzumaki, the shorter of the two, said, "We need you to come with us." "Come on Itachi," the larger man said. "You know this brat isn't going to cooperate. Can I just cut off his legs so he doesn't run away?" Kisame, the now named Itachi, said, "You know that we need him alive." As the two were arguing, Naruto went through hand signs. They were both stopped abruptly when there was burst of brown chakra. Naruto was now holding bleeding sand. "I don't know what you guys want," Naruto said, "but I don't like it." Kisame rose the thing on his back and brought it down only for it to miss the blonde by a hair. Naruto then rushed forward with his sword and it met Kisame's with a loud clang. Kisame was shocked when he actually had to put up a struggle. "Hey," Kisame grunted, "Itachi, a little help here." This kid is a lot stronger than we thought. Itachi took out a few shuriken and threw them. Naruto jumped to the side at the last second. He then rushed forward and threw a kick at Itachi's legs. Itachi jumped over the kick. He was, however, unprepared for the blonde to use the momentum of the kick and go into a handstand. The momentum made Naruto spin on his hands. Twister. Itachi was hit in the face hard and was sent back a few feet. The elder Uchiha was clearly surprised by the strength of that kick. Itachi! A voice yelled, breaking the man from his train of thought. Everyone looked at the source of the voice to see Sasuke standing down the hall. Little brother, Itachi said like he was bored. Itachi, Sasuke growled, I have survived all these years. Now I will finally avenge our clan. As the boy said this, he started to form a chidori in his hand. I'm finally going to kill you, he screamed as he ran at his older brother. As he got closer, Itachi just swept the move aside and grabbed Sasuke by the wrist. Brother, Itachi spoke in a low voice, you are as weak as ever. Itachi activated his Mangekyo Sharingan and put his brother in a Tsukunomi. Sasuke screamed in terror and fell to the ground. The older Uchiha would have continued, but at that moment there was a large puff of smoke. When it cleared, it showed Jiraiya on a huge toad. A girl wouldn't go out with me because I am famous, he said, she would go out with me because of my awesomeness. It took you long enough, pervy sage, Naruto said, making the old man face fault. Kisame, Itachi said, we have regroup. Oh no you don't, Jiraiya said, ninja art. Toad stomach trap. At that moment the entire place was covered in what looked like the stomach of a toad. Itachi and Kisame had already started running. Jiraiya and Naruto stayed put. Suddenly there was the sound of an explosion. They followed the noise to find a large hole in a wall that led to freedom. What got their attention was what looked like black flames on the side of the wall. What's up with the black flames? Naruto asked. That's another power of the Sharingan kid, Jiraiya explained. It's called the Amaterasu. It's a black fire that allows the person who casts it to burn anything. Naruto said, this just gets better and better. I have to say, Naruto, Jiraiya said, you handled yourself well against them. It was nothing, Naruto said. I only got the drop on them because I did a few things they didn't expect to happen. Next time they'll be ready. Jiraiya and Naruto were about to leave when Jiraiya was suddenly hit in the back of the head. The attacker was Might Guy. After realizing his mistake of attacking his ally, he apologized profusely. He said that he had forgot a mirror and had to look at the reflection of his headband to see around the corner, and that he mistook Jiraiya for an enemy. It's all right, Guy, the Toad Sage told him, getting up. Take Sasuke back to Konoha so that he can heal. How did he even know where to find us? Guy told them that Kisame and Itachi showed up at the village looking for Naruto. Kakashi, Kurenai, and Asuma tried to fight them off but failed when Kakashi was put in a Tsukunomi. Guy showed up and saved them. Unfortunately, later Sasuke learned about it and tried to run after them to try and find his brother. What did you do to my hotel? Everyone looked to see the hotel manager seething behind them. Naruto said, look at the time. Got to go. The three then got the heck out of there before they got in trouble for ruining a hotel that was still in the stomach of a toad. After a while of running, Naruto and Jiraiya found another hotel and stayed the night. The next day Naruto and Jiraiya got up early and left to a nearby lake. Okay Naruto, the sage said, I'm going to teach you one of your father's prized techniques, the Rasengan. All right, Naruto cheered. He may have been calmer but he could still be excited, so what is it exactly? It works like this, Naruto, the Toad Sage explained. You have to be able to concentrate a large amount of chakra into your hand. Then you have to be able to give it shape. The final thing is that you must be able to hold that chakra in form so it doesn't recoil and hit you in the face. The old sage formed a spinning ball of chakra in his hand. Naruto stared at it with a look of complete and total awe on his face. He smiled at the thought of having such a technique in high arsenal. Okay old man, Naruto said, making the sage sweat drop, what do I have to do? Well, to start you're going to have to concentrate the chakra into your hand, the sage explained. Naruto tried to, but he couldn't do it. After a while of trying, Naruto got annoyed after a little bit. Darn it, Naruto growled, why can't I get this? I think it's because you're not focusing right, Jiraiya said, getting a confused look from the blonde. He noticed the look, so he explained, you have to focus your chakra solely into your palm. My guess is that you're not focusing it enough. Naruto was quiet for a moment and then got an idea. He pulled a pen out from who knows where and drew a small spiral in the center of his palm. He focused his chakra again, only this time he was thrown back from the sudden burst of chakra. There were even some burns from it on his hand. Jiraiya saw his student get thrown back and jumped in just in time to catch him before he crashed. This kid is something else, the Toad Sage thought. He actually managed to burn himself with his own chakra. Given his talent and the power he got recently from what the Scarecrow told me, it's not really a surprise. Hey, Naruto groaned, I finally got it. So what next? Now kid, Jiraiya said, we need to take a break. You used up a lot of energy learning this part. Besides, we need to continue the search for your godmother. Naruto was begrudging at first, but eventually he relented. The two walked on for a while until they came across what looked like a decent hotel. The old sage paid for the room and they headed to the room. Naruto slept well while the old man was a little nervous. He knew that his old teammate was still sore at him for an incident that involved a game of poker. He was hoping that she had forgotten about that. Meanwhile, in sound, Lord Orochimaru, a sound nin, stated as he approached him, our spies have found that Jiraiya and the boy are in fact on a mission to find Tsunade Senju. Tsunade, the snake said, I believe that I can have a use for her. Her medical skills could come in handy for if me or any of my men are injured. Get Kabuto, I'm going to find my former teammate. The next day with Naruto and Jiraiya. Okay kid, Jiraiya said as they got to a secluded area. You've gotten the amount of chakra you need to focus, but now you have to learn to form its shape. The old man then reached into a box and took out a lot of balloons. What are those for, pervy sage? Naruto asked. Jiraiya growled at the nickname but explained, you are going to fill these with chakra until you've gotten the basic shape for the Rasengan down. After that you will have finished the second part of the Rasengan training. Naruto nodded at the old man. Then he took a balloon and started to focus chakra into it. Unfortunately, the thing burst when he tried. Naruto tried again and this one burst as well. He tried again and again for a few hours. Finally, as he was down to his final balloon, the balloon stayed intact. Jiraiya looked at Naruto in surprise. This kid was learning fast. Of course, if he remembered correctly, the Uzumaki clan were usually fast learners. He made a mental note to give him some of his mother's techniques when this was over, but that was a job for another day. Okay old man, Naruto said, what do I have to do now? Jiraiya was about to answer when they heard screaming. They both turned to see a large crowd running from something, but they didn't know what. Jiraiya grabbed a man from the crowd and pulled him off to the side, so he could talk to him. What's going on? He asked, trying to get some answers. There was a monster sighted in the upper part of town. The man said, clearly scared. It looked like some kind of giant snake or something. Orochimaru, Naruto growled, what is he doing here? I can guess that he found out about Tsunade, Jiraiya said as he let the man go. He probably wants her so that he can use her medical expertise. Not if we get her first, Naruto said. Naruto and Jiraiya ran uptown and looked all over the place. They couldn't find Tsunade anywhere. They retired to a hotel and left town, heading to the next one. It was there that Naruto began the next part of his Rasengan training. Okay kid, Jiraiya told him, this one is going to be a bit more difficult than the other two steps. You'll need to fill these balloons with chakra. However, this time you'll have to keep the chakra steady and keep its shape, otherwise it will go up in your face. We're going to have to do this on the road, since that snake freak is after Tsunade. Naruto nodded and took the pack full of balloons that Jiraiya had. The two went around town asking to see if anyone had seen the woman, but almost all of them happened to be dead ends. The only one that seemed to give them a break was this gambler. Yeah, he said, I've seen a dame like that. Do you know where she might have been going? Jiraiya asked. Naruto was busy trying to perfect his technique at the time, so he was oblivious to what was happening. I will, the gambler said, if you can win against me. What do you want to wager? Jiraiya asked. Okay, the gambler said, taking out a cup and a pair of dice. To win you have to guess whether the number on the numbers will be odd or even. If you win, I'll tell you where that babe was going. If I win, I get all of your money. The gambler did have a bit of a debt. With this money he could pay it off and, as a bonus, he could finally get his wife off his back and pay off the loan shark. Okay, Jiraiya said, getting serious, let's do this. The gambler put the dice in the cup and shook it up a bit. Then he slammed it down on the ground and held it there. "What's your bet, old man?" the gambler asked, smirking. "Odds," Jiraiya smirked. The gambler closed his eyes and lifted up the cup. The number was evens. Jiraiya paled at the thought of losing all his money. Luckily, for him, the gambler didn't notice because he was right now gearing up to sneeze. Apparently either his wife or the loan shark he owed money to was talking about him. Even more luck took place when Naruto failed to hold his Rasengan and the thing burst, casing a wave of chakra to come out and flip the dice to odds. The gambler looked at the dice and groaned, "Okay." The dame said she was going to head out tomorrow. By the look on her face, she was trying to figure something out. Like someone made her an offer and she was thinking if she was refusing or not. Naruto heard that along with Jiraiya, and they both knew what the deal had something to do with Orochimaru. Jiraiya then turned to Naruto. "I think I know a place that we can find you, godmother," he said, getting a look from Naruto. "Let me guess," Naruto deadpanned, "she's going to be in some casino?" "Nope," Jiraiya said, catching the boy off guard. "There's only one thing that you godmother does when she can't think. She drinks a lot of sake. We'll look around the bars tonight." Naruto groaned. He just hoped that this wasn't an attempt for him to get more research for that perverted book that old man Sarutobi. Oh man, he really hoped that this didn't have anything to do with that. The rest of the day was spent with Jiraiya lounging around and with Naruto trying to get the last step of the Rasengan down. He was having little bit of trouble. Although he was managing to get the technique to hold longer. It wasn't long enough to hit whoever he was aiming at. After a few hours, the two began searching some of the bars. Naruto wound up getting hit on by a few questionable women. Jiraiya tried the same thing, but he wound up with red handprints on his face. Naruto always turned the girls down, saying that he had a fiancé at home. They all believed it. After about an hour of searching, Naruto got tired of this. "Come on, old man," Naruto groaned, "it's hopeless. We checked like 5 of these places and we haven't seen hide nor hair of the old bat." "Don't worry, kid," Jiraiya said as they walked into another bar, "we might get a lucky break." As soon as he said that, he and Naruto spied in the corner booth of the bar a tall blonde woman with a diamond tattooed on her forehead, and an ample chest. With her was tall brunette in a black gi. In her arms she held what appeared to be a very well-cleaned pig. Naruto thought it was weird that a pig could be so clean, but he decided that he could question that later. The two approached the bar, and Naruto called out to the bartender. "Sir," he called, "for bottles of your finest sake, please." "Kid," the bartender, a gruff man with a mustache, said, "don't you think that's a little much for just you?" "It's not all for me," Naruto said, "one for me, my old friend here, and for the 2 lovely ladies at the table over there." "Hey kid," Suande said, realizing that they were being pointed at, "just because you got us a bottle of sake doesn't mean that you can get something from either of us." "I'm not trying to get anything," Naruto stated with a friendly smile, "I'm just trying to be polite." "May we?" Tsunade was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Naruto sat down and joined Th2. As soon as Jiraiya sat down, Tsunade glared at him. "Jiraiya, you pervert," she growled, "what the heck do you think you're doing here?" "Come on now, Tsunade-heim," Jiraiya said, trying to calm the woman down. "Can't an old friend find you so he can say, hi?" "I really doubt that that's why you're here," Tsunade stated with a disbelieving look in her eye. "Now why are you really here? And don't tell me it has something to do with the village that I left behind." "Okay," Jiraiya stated, "it doesn't have anything to do with the village that you left behind." Tsunade just sent him a very scary-looking glare. "Okay," Jiraiya sighed after a second, "the old man wants you to take his place as Hokage." "Why would I want to go back there?" she asked with an obviously annoyed look on her face. "That village stole all the family that I had. My great-grandfather, my great-granduncle, my brother, my boyfriend, and my godson. Why should I go back?" "Because your godson is really alive," Jiraiya said, making Suade's eyes widen slightly. "You lie," the brunette said. "He's not," Naruto said, "because you're looking at him." Tsunade then got a good look at the kid. She then noticed the similarities between this kid and Minato. It's kind of obvious those two were related. "Even if you are my godson," Tsunade said, "I still won't go back. That position is for fools anyway. All who have gotten that position have been killed one way or another." She probably would have continued, but she was silenced by a lot of killing intent. She noticed that it was all rolling off Naruto. "You insult that position," Naruto growled. "You insult my father, you old bat." Tsunade felt a vein pop and glared at the boy. If there was one thing that she hated, it was being called old. I suggest you watch your mouth, brat, Tsunade growled. I could beat you into the ground with one finger if I wanted to. Oh yeah? Naruto asked with a smirk. Prove it, grandma. The older blonde got up and turned to the brunette next to her. Shizune watched Tun. She said, I'm going to teach this kid some manners. The now named Shizune took the small pig and got up and followed the blonde. So, Jiraiya said as Naruto and Tsunade walked out the door, how do you know Tsunadeheim? I'm her apprentice, Shizune said. I wanted to be a medic nin, so I decided to try and study under the best. In the street, Naruto stood across from Tsunade. One finger is all I'm going to need, Tsunade said with pride. She was quite proud of her strength. Okay, Naruto said, what do you say we make this interesting? If you can beat me with your finger, you don't have to come with us. If I win, then you have to come with us. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay, brat, Tsunade said, you're on. Naruto charged at the old woman. Tsunade stuck out her hand, placed the finger on Naruto's forehead. She flicked her finger and Naruto was sent flying. Told you I'd beat you, brat, she smirked. Sucker, was all Naruto said before he vanished in a puff of smoke. There was a loud cracking sound. Tsunade turned around to see Naruto bursting from the ground. Then he shot toward her, his leg extended. Mutton shot. Tsunade reacted fast and swung her whole arm. The force behind the two moves. She was shocked to see that the kick was as strong as her punch. Naruto jumped back and landed with a smirk. I win, he said. What? Tsunade asked, but I'm not beaten. Yes, Naruto said slyly, but the deal was that you would only use your finger. You used your whole fist. Tsunade groaned. She had just been caught up in a loophole because of her pride. She was never going to be able to live this down. Now, Naruto said, standing up straight, before we turn in for the night, I have to ask. What was the deal you made with the snake Sanin? So the stupid snake said that he would bring back your loved in exchange for your help in the future, Naruto said, trying to understand everything that his godmother had told him. That's pretty much the gist of it, Tsunade said. So what are we going to do about him? Shizune asked. I think I know, Naruto said. You and the old pervert here can fight him while me and Shizune can take on his right-hand man. That sounds like a plan, Shizune said, but how are you able to take on Kabuto? He's a tough medic nin from what I've seen. I've learned a few tricks in a training, Naruto said. Those taijutsu moves, some sword techniques, and a new move that belonged to my old man. Which one of your father's moves? Tsunade asked. You'll just have to find out, Naruto said with a foxy grin. Want you? The older blonde smirked and crossed her arms at her godson. He was just as bad as his old man. So how long until you two meet? Jiraiya asked. About a week, the elder blonde answered. That should be enough time to master the Rasengan, Naruto thought. Hey grandma, Naruto said, making the elder woman groan. Why don't we make a little bet? Okay kid, she said, her gambling addiction getting the best of her. What do you have in mind? It's simple, Naruto said. If the snake freak dies when we fight him, you come back with us. If he dies? She asked. Yeah, Naruto said. If we all manage to kill him, then you have to come back with us to the village. All right kid, Tsunade said, you got a deal. Jiraiya was mentally doing a happy dance. Since Naruto made that bet, it meant that he didn't have to hold back. He also knew that making a bet against Naruto was a very bad idea. Over the Chunin exams, Naruto gained a nickname, the Cleaner. He had cleaned a lot of people out since they were betting on him losing his fights against Neji and Gaara. A lot of people lost a lot of money. Good thing that Hiashi was convinced to bet against Neji. He made a killing. Over the next week, Jiraiya, Tsunade and Shizune all talked about how to deal with the snake freak when the time came. Naruto was basically trying to master his Rasengan. He was also trying to perfect his other techniques. He would spar with his clones and try out new techniques. Once while he wasn't training, he got an idea. He took out a scroll and started writing down some notes. He had gotten inspiration from his old man again. Naruto kept this a secret from the others around him. He didn't want to reveal this one just yet. At the end of the week, Tsunade stood in a large field waiting for her former teammate to arrive. After a few minutes of waiting, there was a plume of smoke. When it faded, it showed Orochimaru and Kabuto. I trust you've come with an answer, Orochimaru stated with a grin. I have, Tsunade said. As soon as she finished her sentence, she charged with a chakra-encased fist. The snake man barely managed to jump out of the way in time. "I thought we had a deal," Kabuto said as he jumped out of the way of the fist of mass destruction. There were some interesting developments. Tsunade smirked as Jiraiya, Shizune, and Naruto all jumped out. "I can't believe this guy actually fell for it," Naruto laughed. "I thought he was supposed to be smarter than this." "Well, we all have our dead moments," Jiraiya said. "Me and Tsunade got the snake. You and Shizune deal with the four-eyed freak." Kabuto felt a vein pop in his head when he heard that. He growled and chakra focused into his hand. He charged forward and swung. Naruto managed to jump out of the way. He went through a few hand signs and bloody sand appeared in his hand. Kabuto put chakra in his other hand and charged at Naruto. The blonde dodged both strikes and jumped back. Naruto jumped up in the air and came back down, his sword drawn back. As he fell he yelled, "Eat this punk." Flying dragon blaze. Kabuto jumped up to avoid the strike, but Naruto turned around at the last second and slashed Kabuto across his back. As the slash made contact, Kabuto screamed in pain as a large cut ran across his back that lit on fire. Kabuto fell to his knees in pain. Naruto grinned but was still wary in case Kabuto was still ready to fight. He was right OTB as the wound on Kabuto's back healed up and he spun around, his hand glowing with chakra. Naruto brought up his sword to block the strike. Kabuto tried doing the same with his other hand, but Naruto, using the power of bloody sand, brought some out of the ground and caught the attack. "You heal pretty quick," Naruto said as he and Kabuto stood at a face-off. "I've learned ways to make my body heal exponentially," Kabuto gloated. "My healing ability is on par with yours." "You think so?" Naruto asked. "Let's see you heal after this fight, you four-eyed weirdo." Shizune intervened by shooting off a few poison-tipped needles at Kabuto. Kabuto had no choice but to take off from his face-off with Naruto. Naruto jumped back and placed his sword at his side and charged at Kabuto again. Kabuto dodged the slash aimed for his head and Shizune hit him IWHT a few well-pounced punches. Then she followed it up with a kick to the face. Kabuto groaned as he caught himself. "I am not about to lose to some two-bit loser and a little whore," he yelled. Naruto growled as he heard that. He could take many things, but insulting one of his friends was not one of them. Naruto put bloody sand in his teeth and did more hand signs. Another sword appeared in flame this time. It was a long reddish-colored blade with the image of a phoenix on the bottom of the blade. It had the words, "Heaven's Phoenix," written in kanji. "Time to show you what I really got, punk," he said before he and Shizune charged at the silver-haired traitor. Meanwhile, Tsunade and Jiraiya were both going toe-to-toe with the snake freak. Tsunade had managed to sneak up on the Sannin while he was busy fighting Jiraiya. When Orochimaru realized she was there, it was too late. The slug Sannin then flooded Orochimaru's arms with her chakra, effectively ruining the coils in his arm. The snake Sannin snarled in anger. Orochimaru brought the Kusangi out, only he was holding it with his tongue while it was still in his jaw. He tried to use the attack to stab Tsunade, but Jiraiya came out of nowhere and nailed the man in the side of the face with a solid kick. Tsunade then sent a super strong punch to the snake's jaw, sending him flying. "You're pretty pathetic without your arms, snake boy," Jiraiya taunted. The snake sage growled loudly. He hated being mocked, especially if it was by the boy that always made a fool of himself when he was a little kid. The snake man growled at his former friend and shot out a devastating kick. Well, it would have been devastating if the move had actually made contact. Jiraiya switched with a log at the last second and then nailed the old snake in the back of the head with a kick of his own. "You have got to start taking this seriously," Jiraiya said, "or you're going to die before you can meet your goal." Orochimaru snarled again and was about to retort, but Tsunade came in again and gave him a decimating combo of chakra-enhanced fists. Tsunade was inwardly grinning like mad. They were actually beating him. It was a good thing too, because she was really starting to worry about her godson. She had seen the move he used with his hands. He had used chakra scalpels. If Naruto wasn't careful, he was going to get hurt bad or worse. She was brought out of her musings by a tongue wrapping around her neck. She followed it to find Orochimaru smirking at her. She grinned and using her incredible strength forced it off her neck. The snake gasped in surprise. Then taking hold of his tongue, and grimacing while she did, yanked on it, pulling the snake with it. She drew back her arm and slammed it into the side of his face. Back with Naruto and Shizune. Naruto using bloody sand and Heaven's Phoenix blocked 2 more chakra scalpels aimed for his chest. He and Kabuto stood at another standoff. While they glared at each other, Kabuto had to ask Naruto something. "I have to say, Naruto," Kabuto said, "I'm surprised you weren't surprised to find out I was a traitor." "I had a feeling you were one from the beginning," Naruto said. "I guessed since you took the exams so many times. No one fails that many times on purpose. Plus some of the info you had on those information cards was confidential. I decided not to tell anyone since. Who would believe the dead last?" Kabuto chuckled. "You're smarter than your file made you out to be. Stronger too. We could use a fighter like you in the Sound Village." "Sorry," Naruto said apologetically, "but I think I'll stick with my village." Naruto then using surprising strength pushed Kabuto back and then crossed his sword in front of him. Then he swung both saying, "Two-sword style, Hawkwave." There was a massive gust of wind that knocked Kabuto back bit. Naruto took advantage of the medic ninja's disorientation and yelled, "Release." Naruto felt the gravity seals on his lift up and he felt his weight decrease. He also made a mental note to increase the weight when he got back to Konoha. He smirked and sped at Kabuto with his sword drawn back ready to swing. Kabuto saw this coming and formed chakra scalpels in both his hands. Naruto saw this and held both his swords in front of his, pointing up like horns on a rhino. He lunged forward spinning and called out his move, two-sword technique, Rhino Cycle. Kabuto gasped as he had not been ready for an attack such as this. He jumped back and then to the side to avoid the move, but Kabuto's arm didn't get out of the way fast enough and he got a large gash going down his left arm. Kabuto clutched his now cut arm in pain. He groaned loudly. His arm was healing, but it was at a much slower rate. He growled again and looked at Naruto with a growing anger. He was not about to lose to this little squirt. Naruto knew he had to end this so he could help his godparents. He gave a look to Shizune, who nodded. The two charge. Kabuto dodged some poison needles from Shizune. Naruto made a clone and gave it bloody sand. The clone went after Kabuto and Naruto stayed in his spot. Meanwhile, Shizune used her chakra to short out Kabuto's nervous system. In other words, he couldn't move right. Kabuto then noticed the clone bloody sand running at him. The clone yelled, "One sword style, lion song." The clone vanished and reappeared behind Kabuto and a lion's roar echoed through the battleground. Kabuto screamed as the lash of energy appeared and blood sprayed from the wound. Kabuto saw Naruto focusing his chakra and that the sword he was using was glowing. Orochimaru wasn't faring as well either. He looked over to see his assistant in pain. He growled as he knew he would have to bring him out. "Kabuto," he yelled. Kabuto, despite his pain, got up. He saw Naruto rushing at him with the now glowing sword. He jumped up and hit Naruto in the shoulder with a chakra scalpel. Naruto screamed in pain. Shizune ran to Naruto's side as he fell to the ground and Kabuto ran to his master. After bobbing and weaving past Jiraiya and Suonde, he grabbed his master. He jumped back and landed a few feet from the two. He lifted Orochimaru's sleeve to reveal a tattoo and smeared some blood on it. Jiraiya and Tsunade and both knew what he was going to do. They both cut on of their fingers, did a few hand sign, and then slammed their hands onto the ground. Summoning jutsu. There were huge plumes of they cleared it revealed Orochimaru on top of a purple and black striped snake. Jiraiya on top of a giant toad wearing a yakamata and smoking a pipe. And Tsunade on top of a giant white and blue slug. Orochimaru, the snake Manda growled, "You know I don't like to be summoned." "Forgive us, Lord Manda," Kabuto said, "but we need you to help us destroy these idiots." "Fine," the snake growled, "but when this is over I expect 100 sacrifices." "You ready to end this freak once and for all?" Jiraiya asked his summon Gamabunta. "Yeah," the giant toad answered, "I've always wanted a snakeskin wallet." "Are you ready to end this?" Tsunade asked her summon. "I don't know her name so I'll just call her the Slug Queen." "I am," was all the Slug Queen said. The combatants all stood in silence for a moment. Then the Slug Queen drew back her head and said, "Acid slime." Slime shot out of her mouth, if you can call it that, at Manda. The snake managed to dodge the projectile. It hit a rock and the small thing was instantly dissolved to goop. Manda charged forward and wrapped around the Slug Queen. He started to squeeze but Gamabunta pulled out his sword and charged at the snake. Manda barely avoided the blade and the Slug Queen burst into a bunch of smaller slugs. They all crawled away from the battle and then joined together to reform the Slug Queen. "We need some oil, Bunta," Jiraiya yelled to his summon. "You got it," the toad said as his stomach started to swell. Jiraiya went through a few hand signs and called out, "Fire style, toad flame bombs." In perfect sync, the toad sage unleashed a fireball while the toad boss unleashed a lot of oil. The result was a huge fire blast being sent at the snake boss. The move made contact with the snake boss and sage. Jiraiya and Gamabunta looked into the flames to see what looked like a snake getting burned away. He shed his skin, Jiraiya thought. The ground beneath them started to shake. "Bunta beneath us," Jiraiya yelled. "Yeah, I can feel it," the toad boss said. The giant toad jumped off the ground just in time for Manda to jump out at him. The snake wrapped around the giant toad and made an attempt to squeeze him to death. Fortunately for him, Tsunade came out of nowhere and nailed the snake boss right in the head. The snake let go of Gamabunta. The snake then shot out its tail and sent Tsunade flying. "Tsunade!" Shizune screamed from her point of view on the side of the battle. Naruto was still at her feet. Apparently when Kabuto hit him on the arm, he hit one of the arteries. Shizune wasn't as strong as her sensei when it came to the arts of healing, but she was able to keep him alive. If he was awake, he would probably be kicking himself over and over again for not being able to see past this trick. Kyuubi was watching too, and he knew he had to do something. "Kid, can you hear me?" Kyuubi asked into the darkness. "Kid, you have to wake up. If you don't, your godmother will die." "Kid, I never told you this, but when I attacked the village, it was all because of this snake freak here. It's because of him that many people died. It's because of him that you had to be put through hell. If you want your chance at revenge, this is your opportunity to take it. He's the reason you lived alone. He's the reason your parents are dead." As those words echoed through Naruto's mind, something snapped. Naruto suddenly started to glow slightly. Then there was a huge burst of energy. It was a good thing Shizune sensed the energy before she was blown away and got the heck away from the boy. Naruto slowly rose up and opened his eyes. Both were now crimson with slit pupils. Naruto then threw back his head and let out a massive roar of anger. As they heard it, the battling Sannin and their respective summons stopped cold. They turned to see Naruto radiating reddish chakra. Suddenly it was joined by a brownish color. Beside him, Heaven's Phoenix and Bloody Sand both floated in the air. Heaven's Phoenix's blade shined bright before a crystal appeared on the hilt. Naruto may have been angry, but it was a righteous anger. The sword sensed this and thus allowed Naruto access to its full power. As for Bloody Sand, it sensed only the rage and hate toward the snake Sannin. The sword sent of a brownish chakra toward Naruto. It mixed easily with the red chakra, making a brown and red twister. Naruto's right eye then turned yellow with 4 small diamonds in it. Then a black foxtail burst from Naruto's backside right above the tailbone. Naruto had mastered the first demon sword, Orochimaru. Naruto roared in anger, "It's time to die." Naruto vanished in a sudden burst of speed. Then he reappeared in front of Manda. Naruto swung Heaven's Phoenix. The blade lit up in flames and burned the snake's skin. Manda screamed in pain and then glared at the young blonde. "You little runt," he yelled, "you'll pay for that." The snake charged at Naruto. Naruto jumped out of the way and, calling on Shukaku's power, yelled, "Sand coffin." Sand burst from the ground and wrapped around the snake's body, pinning it to the ground. Tsunade took advantage of this and grabbed Gamabunta's sword. With her incredible strength, she was able to lift it. Then she drove it down into the snake's brain, effectively killing it. Naruto then formed 2 clones, both of which had the same appearance as he did. All 3 of them charged at the snake Sannin and his right-hand man. Kabuto saw them coming and jumped. One of the Narutos saw him and threw Heaven's Phoenix to one of the other clones. He jumped up and started focusing chakra into his hand. This Naruto jumped up and appeared a few feet in front of Kabuto. It was then that Kabuto saw the spinning ball of chakra in Naruto's hand. His eyes widened in fear. "Oh no," he thought. In his panic, he didn't form a chakra scalpel and he couldn't doge while in midair. The Naruto in front of him pulled back his arm and shot the ball forward, yelling, "Rasengan." The attack hit Kabuto hard. In addition, all the demon chakra that was inside of it made it hurt even more. Kabuto was sent spiraling down toward his master. He hit the now dead snake boss's back and groaned in pain as he looked up. He saw the clone that hit him vanish in a puff of smoke. The other two Narutos jumped up in the air above them. Orochimaru was about to try and run, but the Naruto holding bloody sand saw him. Using the Shukaku's power, he brought out a lot of sand and then crushed the snake's arms and legs. The snake Sannin fell to the ground. The Naruto holding Heaven's Phoenix grinned evilly. He focused chakra into the sword and it burst into flames. The Naruto then held up the sword. Kabuto realized that this time he wouldn't be able to dodge whatever this was. Naruto brought down the flaming sword and yelled, "One sword style. Heaven technique, Phoenix Fury." As Naruto swung the sword, a huge jet of flame was sent flying at the two. It took the shape of a phoenix and dove right at the two. Kabuto gasped at the strength of the technique. He didn't even finish his thoughts as the flaming bird engulfed both him and his master. As the flames dissipated, it showed that Kabuto was barbecued, but his master, if just barely, was still alive. The Naruto who performed the technique threw Heaven's Phoenix to the one holding bloody sand. It then burst into smoke. The real Naruto then descended on the prone Sannin. The Sannin tried to move, but the sand that had crushed his limbs kept him in place. He looked up at Naruto, who angry demonic eyes glared at him. He crossed both his sword and continued his descent. "No," Orochimaru yelled, "I can't die here. I won't die here. I'm supposed to find the secret to immortality. I'm supposed to learn all the jutsu in the world. I'm supposed to die." Naruto roared as Heaven's Phoenix and bloody sand both burst into energy. Two-sword technique. Heaven and demon style. Demonic Heaven's Castle Gate. Naruto brought both swords down on Orochimaru's chest right where his heart was. Orochimaru screamed as pure chakra and demon chakra both ran through his system. The two chakras clashed and finally exploded. The result was the pieces of Orochimaru being scattered everywhere. Naruto stood on top of the burning dead snake. He slowly reverted back to his normal state. His eyes turned back to normal, but the foxtail stayed. Meanwhile, all of the other combatants stared on in awe at the strength Naruto held. Naruto panted in exhaustion. Since he had used the power of two demons at once, he was going to be really tired. He looked over at Tsunade and said, "Hey Ba-chan, looks like you're coming back with us." With those words, Naruto lost consciousness. A few hours later, Naruto groaned as he saw white. He got up and looked around to see Shizune. "What happened?" Naruto asked. Shizune jumped a bit when she heard Naruto's voice. "Well," she said, "after you killed Orochimaru and Kabuto you lost consciousness. We brought you back here so you could rest and regain your strength." "I have to ask Thought, where did you get that power?" "The fox," Naruto said, "told me the real reason behind his attack years ago. I got mad." He looked at his swords to see that Heaven's Phoenix had a crystal. "I think something in that moment caused me to master my swords. One of them anyway. Also with that rush of power I managed to kill them. I guess you could call it a temporary boost. After I calmed down the power left. Not to self. Keep temper in check." "Okay," Shizune said, "at least we don't have to worry about the fox getting out." Naruto grinned happily. Naruto never did notice his tail. He was glad and it started wagging. Naruto didn't notice, but Shizune did. She managed to keep her head about her, for a few seconds. "Kawaii." She jumped at Naruto and landed on him. Naruto cried out in surprise. The brunette began to pet Naruto's tail. Naruto stopped struggling and to enjoy the sensation. He actually started to purr. That was when Naruto knew something was wrong and he got Shizune off. She pouted slightly when the softness of the fur left her grip. Naruto looked at his backside and saw his tail. He followed it in a circle for a moment, looking dumb, but looking really adorable to Shizune at the moment. "Looks like I mastered 2 of my swords," Naruto muttered. "Great, 2 down, 21 to go." At that moment Tsunade and Jiraiya both walked in with Tun-Tun. "Hey brat, I see you're up," Tsunade said. "I guess that we can head out then." "You mean you really are going with us?" Naruto asked. "Sure," she said with a grin, "I mean you did kill Orochimaru. In honor of our bet, that means that I have to go back with you to the village. Besides, I get to spend some long-lost quality time with my godson. Oh, and by the way, while you were out cold I excavated Kusangi from what was left of Orochimaru and I got what was left of Kabuto's head. Jiraiya put them both in a scroll. If you turn them in you can get a bounty." Alright guys, Naruto said, let's go home. Naruto headed for the door. Unknown to him though his tail had a mind of its own, and when he passed Shizune it swept across her butt. Eep. Naruto looked at her and grinned shyly. Sorry, it has a mind of its own. Shizune just blushed and the tail disappeared via a genjutsu Naruto cast. Omake 1 Orochimaru vs Isom. Naruto stood over the defeated body of Orochimaru. The snake looked up at Naruto in fear. No, he yelled, I can't die yet. I'm supposed to find the secret to immortality. I'm supposed to learn all the jutsu in the world. Oh, shut up you big baby. Everyone look around to find the source of the voice. Jiraiya said, who's there? Oh sorry, I'm Isom, the author. Wait, Naruto said as he powered down from his chakra high. You're the one who made this universe? Not really. This is just my take on the universe. What? Tsunade asked. I can't tell you. Tell us what you mean or I will find you and completely destroy you. Orochimaru yelled. Just you try it, little man. Oh yeah? Orochimaru said, ditching his body and standing up. Bring it. So has the old village changed at all? Tsunade asked as the group approached Konoha. They had been traveling for a few hours and right now they were about a 10-minute walk from the gate. If you mean that they are all mindless imbecilic idiots that can't see past their own hate, Naruto drawled, then no they haven't changed. Tsunade groaned to herself as she heard this. Jiraiya had told her about how the village had treated its hero and how Naruto had been deprived of a family because of that. She also heard about how he beat Gaara and a Hyuga prodigy. Jiraiya left out the part about him being under the CRA, but she would learn about that later on. As they approached the gate, the two guards at the gate saluted. Welcome Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama, they both said in creepy unison. At ease you too, Jiraiya said. The group walked into the village and Tsunade grinned. Despite what she had said back in the town, she was a little glad to be home. She had family and she could get those debt hunters off her back. Good thing too, because that never really happened a lot. The group headed toward the Hokage Tower. As they walked, a lot of things were heard as they walked. Hey, is that Tsunade? A man asked. It is. I wonder what she's doing here, another man asked. Maybe the Hokage sent for her so she could kill the demon, said the first man. Tsunade heard that comment and focused a vicious glare at the two. The two men paled and slowly backed away from the group. As they walked farther, Naruto heard some things from a few females. Yes, one said, I heard that Tsunade has been called in to be the new Hokage. It's about time that the ladies got their due. I know, said another, and there's Naruto-kun. Maybe I could get him to marry my daughter. He does need to revive the Namikaze clan after all. Naruto's eyes widened when he heard that. He knew that the civilian council must have leaked information throughout the village. So much for keeping his lineage a secret. Eventually the group made it to the Hokage Tower and they walked into the old man's office. As they walked in, they were treated to the sight of a certain pink-haired pain in the ears and a certain duck-haired annoyance who were, get this, making demands of the old man. Well, the duck-haired annoyance was making demands. The pink-haired pain in the ears was backing him up. For the last time, boy, the aged Fire Shadow said, I will not make you a chunin nor will I order Naruto to hand over his techniques and weapons. But I need that power. Sasuke yelled at the old man. Sasuke, Naruto said, making his presence known. I know you did not just raise your voice to the Hokage. Dobi, Sasuke growled. I demand that you hand over those swords and techniques to me now. I told you before, Sasuke, Naruto said, narrowing his eyes. I will not give you my techniques or swords. Dobi, Sasuke growled. You will hand over your weapons now or I will. Bam! Sasuke was cut off when Naruto suddenly threw up his leg and nailed the boy in the chin. The Uchiha was sent flying up into the roof of the office, clearly knocked out. Naruto then pulled the Uchiha out of the roof and then threw him out the window. Sakura screamed at Naruto and would have run at him when she saw Tsunade. She smirked evilly. After a few seconds she got impatient. Well? She asked expectantly. Well, what? Tsunade asked as she looked at the pink-haired girl. Aren't you going to hurt him? She asked. You saw him hurt Sasuke? He should be punished. What I saw, the slug princess said, was an arrogant brat trying to claim things that weren't his and being thwarted in his attempts. What? Sakura screeched. He hurt Sasuke, he should. Bam! Naruto got sick of listening got the pink-haired girl go on and on and on, so he just decided to kick the girl in the face and send her flying out the window. There was another crash heard as she hit the ground. "Thank you Naruto," Sarutobi said with a thankful look. Now the mission was an obvious success. "It was," Naruto said, "but there were some interesting developments." "What developments exactly?" the old man asked. "Well," Naruto said, "we ran into the snake Sannin while we were on the mission." "Really?" the old man said in shock. "What happened?" "He tried to get Tsunade here to go on with him to his village and use her as a medic in case he ever needed her. We all fought him along with his right-hand man Kabuto and, how should I put this, I killed them both." There was a thick silence for a few moments and then it was broken by a very loud, "Whaat." The group in front of the old man had to admit that the look on his face was absolutely hilarious. His jaw was on the floor and his eyes looked like they were about ready to pop out of his skull. "How did you manage to kill one of the Sannin and his right-hand man?" the Hokage asked, shock still clear on his face. "Well," Naruto started to explain, "during the fight I mostly fought Kabuto with Shizune by my side. Eros Sannin and Ba-chan here fought the snake freak. Anyway, in the middle of the fight Kabuto knocked me out with a chakra scalpel. From what I saw after that they summoned creatures for their fight. While I was out the fox told me why he attacked the village and told me it was the snake's fault. Obviously I got angry because of all the stuff that happened to me was because of him. In my rage I mastered 2 of my swords and gained a major chakra high. In my range and chakra enhanced state I not used a move I made for one of my swords and a 2-sword move to kill the both of them." Sarutobi was at a loss for words and was currently sitting in his chair with a look of total shock on his face. He looked at Naruto skeptically. Though he knew that Naruto was in fact strong, there was no way he could have killed a Sannin. "Do you have proof of this?" he asked. Naruto smirked as Jiraiya took out toe scrolls. He undid them and unsealed what was inside. Out of one scroll popped the Kusanagi and out of the other popped the severely charred head of Kabuto. The Hokage turned pale as he saw both of them. After regaining his composure he looked at the blonde in front of him. "Naruto," the old man said, "in light of this I'm willing to pay you the bounty for both Orochimaru and Kabuto." Since his betrayal Kabuto had been given a pretty hefty bounty. "Naruto," the old man asked as he looked at the boy, "how do you know you mastered your swords?" Before Naruto could answer an Anbu appeared. "Hokage-sama," he said, "the council has asked for the presence of you and all the people who were involved in the mission to retrieve Tsunade-sama." The Hokage groaned. He had a feeling the council would try to get Tsunade under their thumb or at least try to get some more power out of the whole thing. He mentally smirked as he knew that this would be harder than it seemed and that with Naruto as an enforcer in this it would be a heck of a lot harder. The group in Hokage went down to the council chambers where the council was waiting. "Tsunade," said a pink-haired councilwoman, "it's good to have you back in the village." "It's good to be back I guess," Tsunade said. "Now we would like to talk to you about your position as the Godem," Kaharu said while inwardly grinning evilly. "What do you want to talk about exactly?" she asked, though she already had a feeling she knew what. "How we are to punish the demon for harming Haruno-san and Uchiha-sama," a civilian councilman said. The reaction was Tsunade walking up to the man and using her incredible strength caved in his skull. Everyone stared at the woman with a look of shock and fear on their faces. "Does anyone else have anything to say?" she asked in a slightly angry tone. The civilians did the smart thing for once and shut up. Now, the slug Sannin said, "I want to know exactly why you want Naruto to be punished." "He attacked the Uchiha and my daughter without provocation," Rose Haruno said. "He should be punished for harming them both." "I witnessed the event," Suande said, "and the only reason Naruto hurt Sasuke was because we came into the Hokage's office and found him demanding things from the current Hokage. Then he demanded that Naruto hand over his weapons. Naruto did the only thing he could do and knocked him out to shut him up. The reason Haruno was hurt was because she started demanding that I punish Naruto for hurting her precious Sasuke. Both are liable reasons why he attacked them." The council was quiet for a moment. They didn't have a leg to stand on in this case. They growled and glared angrily at Naruto, who just glared back at them. "Now then," Suande said, "since I'm the new Hokage I have one order of business, the removal of the civilian council." "You can't do that," yelled Rose Haruno, "we're the council. You can't just fire us." I'm the one getting the title as Hokage, you pink-haired howler monkey, Tsunade growled. Now those of you who aren't a member of a shinobi clan get out. Nobody moved. Now, that got the civilians moving and they all rushed out of the room in a hurry like the cowards they were. After they were gone, Naruto burst out laughing. It's about time someone told those jerks off, he said. I'm just glad they're off the council cause they were major pains in the butt. Naruto, Sarutobi said, as my last deed as Hokage I would like to give you these. He took a scroll that had the word elemental written in kanji. These scrolls, he explained, hold some Uzumaki clan techniques. These are the low-level ones. The rest I believe your father put in the Namikaze clan vault. Thanks old man, Naruto said with a grin. Oh, that reminds me, Naruto said as he turned to leave. I want the clan heads to come by my place around 6 tonight. I'm thinking of setting alliances with you since I owe you guys for trying to adopt me when I was a kid. How do you intend on sealing the deal, kid? Sume asked. You're just going to have to find out, aren't you? Naruto answered with a sneaky grin. Sume growled at not getting a direct answer. With that, Naruto left. Naruto walked through the clan district and found the space where the Namikaze clan household was. He walked to the middle of the space and found a large red spiral in the middle. He bit his thumb cutting it and smeared some blood in the middle of the seal. The ground began to shake and a large complex rose up from the ground. It was basically as big as the Hyuga complex. Naruto didn't have enough time to do a complete tour of the place. He searched for a while and found the forge. He grinned as he walked inside and saw that everything was in one piece. He grabbed a few pieces of metal and fired up the furnace. Later around 6, the clan heads and their children walked toward the newly resurrected Namikaze compound. They had to admit that this place was impressive. Hiyashi felt some old memories running through his mind as he walked into the place. As they walked in, they heard a loud clanging sound. They followed it until they reached the forge. They could see Naruto with a pair of gloves on using a hammer to strike a piece of heated metal. Naruto rose up from his work and looked up at the families. Welcome, Naruto said. Sorry, but I ran a little late in some of my work. What work exactly? Inoichi asked, his daughter looking quizzically at Naruto. I'll show you in a minute, Naruto said, striking the metal again. In the meantime, the kitchen is down the hall. I checked earlier and the food is still good. Help yourselves. And Shuza, Choji, if I find half of my food gone, I'm going to blame you too and you'll have to pay me back. The two Akamichi nodded in understanding. Everyone turned and headed for the kitchen. Some of them felt like a little snack. The group waited for 10 minutes before Naruto walked into the kitchen looking tired, but looking happy. So what are the conditions to the alliances? Sume asked. Not much, Naruto said. I already know none of you had any ill intent since I saw that the adults in the room all tired to adopt me at some point. So all you need to do is give me your word and in return I'll give you a little something. They all grinned. They all had a feeling that trying to help that kid out would come in handy at some point. They just didn't know how. Okay Naruto, the clan heads said in unison, you have our word. Okay, Naruto said grinning, now on to what clinches the deal. By the way, I should tell you, no, these weapons are for the clan heads only. You can give them to your children if you think that they're ready or if they become clan head. Naruto opened the box that he had brought with him. He took out a small scroll that had the Akamichi clan symbol on it. Naruto focused some chakra into it. There was a large puff of smoke and a really loud boom. Everyone jumped at the sound of the crash. When the smoke cleared, Choji and his father both had wide eyes. In the ground was a large black double-sided red trimmed axe. On the blade it had the kanji for Raging Earth. I take it a weapon like this is something the Akamichi could use, Naruto said as the elder Akamichi picked the weapon up. It was surprisingly light for something so big. I call it Raging Earth, Naruto said proudly. The scrolls one had came with instructions for making all sorts of weapons. I decided to make one like this for your clan. It's beautiful, Naruto, Shuza said, but why call it Raging Earth? Go outside, focus some chakra into the blade and hit the ground with it, Naruto said. Shuza walked outside along with everyone else. They wanted to see what would happen. Once outside, Shuza took the axe and focused chakra into the axe. You could tell it worked since the axe gained a brownish glow. Shuza brought the axe down and the ground shook. Suddenly the ground in front of him split. A thin wave of chakra was sent out and it hit a nearby tree, splitting it in half. Everyone looked at the destruction with dropped jaws. Naruto grinned at his handiwork. He normally would gloat, but he had to admit the Uzumaki clan sure did a real good job when it came to forging weapons. He made sure not to say that out loud, otherwise he would sound as arrogant as a certain duck-haired jerk. Somewhere else a certain emo sneezed. "What else do you got?" Sume asked with a feral grin. "I thought you wouldn't ask," Naruto said, pulling out 2 bracelets from the box, both of which had the kanji for jackal on it. "These are for you, Sume." "Ooh," Sume said, taking them. "Jewelry on the first date." "How sweet." Naruto blushed at Sume's flirting. "Focus chakra into them," Naruto said. Sume did just that. As she did, metal spread over her hands and formed iron claws over her hands. Sume grinned at the sight of them. "Can you make one for our dogs?" she asked. She saw much promise in these weapons be wielded by both the masters and their partners. "I already did," Naruto said, taking out a much smaller box. "1 set for your dogs and 2 more sets to go with Hana if she gets to become clan head." Sume smiled toothily. They then grabbed Naruto's head and gave him a quick kiss on the lips. Naruto's face now resembled Hinata's when she blushed. Said girl was also glaring holes into the back of Sume's head. Hiyashi noticed and put a hand on her shoulder to try and calm her down. "Ahem," Naruto said once he regained his composure, "for the Nara clan I have this." Naruto took out another scroll from the box and unsealed it. Out came a very nasty-looking spear. The shaft was long and made of a very dark-looking wood. The head was made of a pitch-black material that was serrated and looked like it could tear through strong armor. "I call it the Shadow Spear," Naruto explained. "Obvious, I know, but it was all I could think of on short notice." Shikaku took the spear and examined it closely. "If you want a real surprise," Naruto grinned, "focus some chakra into it, then swing it." The elder Nara focused chakra into it and swung the spear. As he did, a black shadow shot out and lashed out. Naruto ducked just in time for the shadow lash to hit the nearby wall and leave a long gash along it. "Whoa," Shikamaru said as he looked onward at the gash. "If you come up with techniques for them," Naruto said, "you'll have to come up with them your own self." Both Nara men grinned happily as they held their new family weapon. "Abarame's turn," Naruto said. "I know weapons aren't really your style, but you guys do need to expand your artillery. Someone may learn a weakness in your clan and use that very same thing against you." "Logical," Shibi Abarame, Shino's father, said. "Insects must adapt to different situations. As will we to our future enemies." Naruto grinned at Man. He took a scroll from the box and took out a scroll for the Abarame. He unsealed and out came a chain with a weight on one end and scythe blade on the other. "I couldn't really think of a name for this," Naruto said, "but since the Abarame use ranged attacks, this could help you out. If you focus chakra into the scythe blade, it'll extend and do a bit more damage." The Abarame grinned toothily behind his collar. It was good thing that no one could see it, because it would have been quite freaky to the other people in the room. "Thank you, Naruto-san," the Abarame said, bowing his head. "Just Naruto," Naruto said. "I hate formalities." And finally, Naruto said, reaching into the box, "The weapon for the Yamanaka." He unsealed it and out popped a large scythe. This one had a long black staff with a bright red blade. The back of the scythe blade also had a few points, meaning hitting it with the back side of it would hurt too. "The Burning Devil," Naruto said as Inoichi picked it up. "Focus chakra into the blade and it lights on fire. Swing it while it's lit and flames leap from the blade. It should come in handy if you don't have time to use your mind transfer, and help you double team your opponent with the victim of your mind destruction technique." Inoichi grinned. Then he remembered something. Only the Naras and the Akamichis, were able to transfer elements like that. "I see you noticed that only you and the Naras and Akamichis weapons can transfer elements like that," Naruto said with a smile. "I know about the Ino Shika Chotrio. If you ever run into someone who knew how to counter the team attacks you have, then you can pull these out and give them something new to prepare for." The former and new trios smirked as they heard this. Naruto had not only made their families a bit stronger, they also made their team stronger. It was only getting better and better. "Oh, I almost forgot the Hyugas," Naruto said, pulling out 2 scrolls. "Why do we get 2 weapons?" Hiyashi asked. "I know that there are 2 different Hyuga styles, Hiyashi," Naruto said. "The one you use and one your wife used. I made one for yours and for the one your wife and now Hinata will use." Naruto unsealed the one for Hiyashi and a brown sword with the Hyuga symbol on it and the kanji for eagle. I call it the all-seeing eagle, Naruto said. It works like your Jiyuken style. You can shut down chakra from your enemies. It's useful against genjutsu and ninjutsu users. Plus a little kenjutsu added to the family could never hurt anyone. And am my weapon N Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Her stutter had gotten better. Naruto smirked and unsealed a pair of gloves. These had metal running down to each fingertip and had a sharp point on the edge. Hinata, Naruto said, I know you don't like to fight, but you are going to have to use these. From what I read from something my mom left, her style was more of defensive type. This should add some extra punch should you ever go on the offensive. Hinata took the gloves and put them on. She smiled and gave Naruto a quick hug. Naruto smiled and hugged her back. If that is all, Naruto said, I've been working for a long time and I'm pretty worn out. I think I'm going to turn in early. The clans nodded. They knew from watching other forgers that forging weapons, especially of this caliber, was very exhausting. As they turned to leave, Naruto called out. Oh, and to my fellow Chunin and Genin, Naruto called, I want you guys to start training your butts off. If you want to inherit those weapons and if you want to use them effectively, you are going to have to be much stronger than you are now. They Genin and Chunin all nodded as they heard this. They had a feeling that they would have to be stronger than they were now. They thanked Naruto and left. Well, the guys left. Ino ran back and gave Naruto a kiss and signaled, call me. As they left, Naruto was approaching the box when he noticed that there was one scroll left. He remembered that there was one person who didn't show up. He sighed to himself he could just give it to him tomorrow. As he started to put the box up, there was the sound of a throat clearing. Naruto groaned as he heard it and turned to see someone that wasn't invited. Two people actually, Sakura and Sasuke. With them was Kakashi, who actually was invited. What are you two doing here? Naruto asked, referring to his former teammates. He had invited Kakashi and he guessed that those two tagged along. We came to see what you were going to give Kakashi, Sasuke said. Fine, Naruto said, but if you try and touch it I will hurt you both. Sorry Naruto, Kakashi said, sounding upset with himself. I couldn't shake them and Sakura said she would sing if I didn't let them come. Naruto paled at that. Sakura's singing voice was terrible. She once sang at a karaoke bar a few years ago. Her singing is now used as a torture device in the interrogation department. Okay, Naruto said as he reached in and took out the last scroll in the box. He unsealed it and a long katana popped out. The blade was an electric blue and had the image of a lightning bolt running down the blade, and it had the Hitaki clan symbol on it. I call it Storm Rage, Naruto said. If you focus chakra into the blade it'll turn into electricity, providing a more efficient cut. It's also useful for fighting people with a water affinity. Dobi, Sasuke said, make me a sword like that. No, Naruto said, I won't make a weapon for someone as stupid and arrogant as you. Dobi, Sasuke growled, I demand you make me a sword. Yeah, baka, Sakura said, Sasuke deserves a sword. Do you ever shut up? Naruto yelled, making Sakura cringe. Dobi, Sasuke said, I don't care if I have to kill you to do it. You will make me a sword. Naruto had had enough. He growled, his eyes turning red with slits pupils. He started to radiate red chakra and his killing intent shot through the roof. Sasuke backed away in fear and Sakura looked close to wetting herself. Check that she did wet herself, since she now has a growing stain in the front of her pants. Get out of my house. Naruto roared at the two. The two turned tail and ran. Sasuke was silently vowing to make the council tell Naruto to make him a weapon. Sakura was going to tell her mother to tell the council to do just that, then execute Naruto for threatening her. Boy, were they in for a surprise. Sorry about that, Kakashi, Naruto said. Kakashi reached for his new weapon when Naruto jerked it back. Oh no, Naruto said, you're not getting it that easily. I gave these to the clan heads because I owed them and because I knew that they and their children were strong. For you I have a condition. What's that? Kakashi asked. He really wanted that sword. I want you to build your strength back up, Naruto said. You've slacked off in your training. If you want to use this sword I want you to be back at the strength of an Anbu captain. Deal? Naruto held out his hand. Kakashi grinned under his mask and shook the boy's hand. Deal, Kakashi said. Now if you need me, Naruto said, I'll be going to bed. I can guess, Kakashi said. I heard that forging takes a lot of time and energy. Good night, Naruto. Night, Kakashi, Naruto said with a grin. The two then went separate ways. Naruto went up to find his father's room. He walked in and then fell asleep before his head even hit the pillow. Meanwhile, so you're saying that the boy possessed a strange fighting style and impressive skills with swords? A shady figure asked. Yes, Itachi said as he looked at his boss. The figure said, keep tabs on the boy. Getting his hands on the Kyuubi may be harder than we thought. Much harder, Itachi said. I sent a spy to watch Naruto after our encounter. Apparently he called on some in great power and what Itachi? The figure asked. He managed to kill Orochimaru. The figure's eyes widened. Orochimaru was supposed to be immortal. How could a Chunin have the power to kill one of their former members? The figure smirked. That is all, the figure said. If you find anything out, let me know. I want to know if the boy's power grows. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.